We are live on a happy hour Friday edition of the Sports Bash. 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. What's up, everybody? Good to be back. Kinda, sorta, maybe. One day for me, and then I'm off for the weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed the week. Thanks to the guys all for filling in. Josh, Pete, Nick, everybody out there listening. Appreciate everybody with the well wishes on getting back today. Listen, I got home last night at 1 o'clock in the morning. It is about 8 o'clock in my head right now, 8 o'clock at night. I don't know what day it is, what time it is, or where I should be, but where would you rather be than right here, right now, Marv Levy, on the Sports Bash? And that's where we are on a happy hour Friday. And from what I understand, I woke up this morning after a couple delays on my flight last night that got me home at an hour that I was not thrilled with. But I got this text message this morning from a buddy of mine. And it told me all I needed to know about the Phillies right now. Welcome back. Castellanos sucks. That's all you missed. Is that about sum up the week? When I and the funny part is, when I left for Europe, the Phillies were a game and a half up on the Mets. They're 5 games up now. And I said, was it that bad while I was gone? They were a game and a half up when I left. They're 5 up now. And yet the text message I got this morning was, welcome back, Castellanos sucks. That's all you missed, really. How are things around here?
Well, first of all, welcome back. Good to have you back. Number 2, that's the person who texted that is leaving out a lot of context.
Feels like it.
You know, the reason why the Phillies are up 5 games on the Mets has actually less to do with the Phillies and more to do with the Mets at this point.
Well, to get some separation, I know, look, I did pay attention a little bit. I was kind of following along with the Phillies. You couldn't really watch them while I was there, but I did kind of look at the box scores and read all the insiders and the beat writers and all that kind of stuff, pretty much day to day.
Right.
And I understand the Phillies are in a 3-game skid right now where their offense has basically reverted back to the offense that we all know and hate. The offense that they have the last 3 nights, Cincinnati twice, the Nationals last night, it's the offense that we all have seen time and time again. And even in the series against the Rangers, where they beat the Rangers 3-2, 4-2, they beat the Reds 4-1, it wasn't these offensive explosions that led to the victories. And it goes back to reverting to the thought of, okay, we know the pitching's really good, but this offense is not good enough. And when you take a look at what they did at the trade deadline, they did not do enough to sufficiently, I should say, fix the offensive problems. They brought Harrison Bader in here. And look, Harrison Bader's a nice player. I mean, he is what he is, but he wasn't changing the dynamics of this offense. He's hitting 185. He had the 1 home run before I left. I don't think he's hit another one since. They've played him a little bit more, but you got big problems in that outfield still. And oddly enough, from what I see, from where I was in Prague yesterday, it seems that this is a big problem. Max Kepler has been more productive than Nick Castellanos has since I left.
Yep, and that's why for the one game with the Rangers on that one Saturday with the Fox game, they put Kepler in right field. They benched Castellanos.
Which they should.
But it's to the point now where it's like, wow, Nick Castellanos, it's not that he's not playing well, Mike. I was complaining about this yesterday when I was filling in for you. It's the fact that this entire team, aside from 2 guys, go up to the plate. And it looks like they have no plan. It looks like they have no idea. It's like it's like grabbing a guy out of the stands who's about 2 beers in. And then he sees a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And he's like, oh, no, I didn't sign up for this.
Well, Jeff Kerr tweeted this out this morning. The Phillies have the 3rd worst chase rate in baseball. Last year, they were the 5th worst. Now, last year, they were the 5th worst, but actually chase rate was worse. Their chase rate is slightly better this year, but it's the 3rd worst. So other teams have gotten better at it. The Phillies are not actually doing much to improve on it. So, listen, I have been saying this for a long time. I love how everybody else is finally catching on that Nick Castellanos stinks. I've only been saying it for a year and a half. I love how everybody all of a sudden is like, oh, this Nick Castellanos guy might be a problem. Hello? Has all of a sudden become a problem?
He's been a problem for a while.
Nick Castellanos has been a below-average player for this team for about a year and a half. He is clouded by the one burst of greatness that he displayed in the series against the Braves, and he should be commended for that.
One series.
He had one, not even a week. It was like 4 days where he was blistering hot.
Right.
And we all kind of look back at that version of Nick Castellanos that are like, listen, I endorsed the Castellanos signing. I thought it was a good idea to bring in a right-handed bat who had just popped 30 home runs and hit over 300. I would like a guy like that in my lineup. Unfortunately, I never got that guy. I got hoodwinked. And everybody has been hoodwinked by this guy. But listen, his WAR right now is a minus 1.1. You've got to try to suck that bad. You have to try to be that bad. So one of the things I want to discuss is everybody gets on Topper or whoever makes the lineup about all these platoons. You need another platoon. You need to get him out of right field half the time. If you want to keep Kepler on this team, that's where Kepler should be playing. He should be spending half the time in right field. Because quite frankly, Castellanos, his splits don't even suggest he should play against left-handed pitching. But if you're going to keep him out there and you're going to just say, hey, we have to play this guy. He's making $20 million. There's nothing we can do. And the other guy's making $10 million. We got to play them both. Well, then just have a $30 million right fielder and see what you get out of it. Get a $30 million right fielder and say, this is where we are right now. Because Castellanos is unplayably bad. Unplayably bad, and he's been that way. And I've been saying this for a while, and everyone's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Now all of a sudden I see all these people out there writing articles and talking about Nick Castellanos like this is a epiphany. Holy mackerel. Nick Castellanos is this bad? He's been this bad.
I think the problem, though, is, Mike, it's not that Castellanos isn't that bad. I think the problem is that people are so desperate to figure out how this team went from a team that won 12 out of 15 games and was actually starting to score runs to all of a sudden losing 3 straight and basically averaging a run per game.
Well, the whole offense, by the way, it's not just Castellanos right now. Castellanos has been bad since the All-Star break, but it's not just Castellanos.
Well, he's been bad for 2 years.
Well, but I'm saying, listen, Nick Castellanos is a league average player in terms of offensively. You throw in his defense, and he's one of the worst players in the whole league.
Right.
As an offensive player, he's just, I would say he's below average right now because he doesn't do anything of substance. His batting average is .250, which in today's day and age is okay. His on-base percentage is .292, which is awful. He hasn't walked since Trump was president the first time. All right? That's the last time I think Nick Castellanos has walked.
He swings at everything.
His slugging percentage is horrendous, and his OPS is borderline
offensive.
He's at 700 right now. His OPS is 700 right now.
It's actually better than I thought.
To put it in perspective, Brandon Marsh is 748. Brandon Marsh didn't get a hit in the month of April.
Correct.
All right. Here's some more perspective on his OPS being 700. His OPS of 700, Weston Wilson's is 754. Edmundo Sousa is 725. Nick Castellanos is literally the worst offensive player the Phillies have.
Yeah.
So why are we in this looking at Nick Castellanos? It's not just Castellanos. The last week or two, Trey Turner has not been very good. Bryce Harper has not been very good.
Bryce Harper, to me, is actually more frustrating than Castellanos because we thought Harper was coming out of whatever slump he was in, returning from the injury. And then he had that one home run the other night in Cincinnati, that big shot. But aside from that, he's done absolutely nothing for the last couple of weeks.
No, he hasn't. And listen, he's hitting .256, but his on-base percentage is still .355. He does have something, right. He does have a redeeming quality. Castellanos, no redeeming qualities. Harper, frustrating, but .355 you can do something with. I could do something with you if you're on base. Castellanos, I can't do anything with you if you are not on base.
Listen, I'm telling you, man, it's ever since he moved into Ben Simmons' old house.
That's what the theory is.
I told Nick Earnshaw that yesterday during Nuggets. I said, is it a coincidence that two guys who have been multiple-time All-Stars suddenly started falling off the face of the earth? They both lived in the same house.
Yeah, listen, I like the fact that the team went out and got Johan Duran, obviously. The problem has been they can't get to him right now. Right. And there's no need for him right now when you don't have the lead. And that's one of the big issues is if you can't score enough runs, you can't get to the closer. Duran was a big piece that they needed, obviously. They obviously needed to get Duran and put him in that bullpen. But what they also really, 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 really needed was some right-handed punch in somewhere in this lineup because the right-handed punch that they signed 3 years ago has not worked out. At some point, Dave Dombrowski had to put his big boy pants on and say, I made a signing and it has not worked out. That's been the problem. They paid him $20 million and they can't go back on it.
Correct.
And because they just refuse to admit over the last two trade deadlines, when everybody has said they need the same thing, my buddy is the biggest Nick Castellanos honk there ever was. And I think he just does it because he's like, I'm fighting the good fight. I'm the only guy out there. I know deep down he knows he stinks. He just likes to argue, which is admirable. But even if you're that guy, he's still the same guy talking out of the other side of his mouth saying, they need a right-handed bat in the middle of the lineup. Well, what about that right-handed bat? Why don't you put the guy that you like so much right there in the four-hole? He's getting paid $20 million. You don't think that's a guy that they wanted to hit there? The ROI on him has been horrible. And here's the problem. Dave Dombrowski has refused to admit that the Castellanos signing has not worked out.
You better be careful starting selling me over there, Mike Gill.
He has refused to admit at the last two trade, really three. Really, the last three people have said, you know what? They really need a right-handed bat in the middle of the lineup because Castellanos has never really been the guy to hit in the four spot, which is what they really signed. When you give a guy $20 million, all right, a year, especially at that time. Now, the salaries have gone up a little bit since then, but 5 years ago or 2022 when they signed him, 3 years.
Well, that's the key, is it's 2022. They signed him with the idea, Mike, that this lineup, this was pre-Trey Turner. The lineup was supposed to be in some semblance of you had Schwarber, you had Harper, you had Castellanos, you had Remuto. That was your original big four. And the idea is that then you were just hoping that Alec Boehm and the other guys would kind of fill in the gaps around them.
Yeah, the fact that you have to hit Alec Boehm in the four hole, Alec Boehm, a guy that just has no business hitting in the middle of a lineup in terms if you're looking for power supply. But the guy that you paid $20 million, you can't hit there because he doesn't do anything. You have a guy making $20 million that is probably best suited right now to hit seventh, if he's lucky.
If he's lucky, yeah. Maybe he should be in the lineup at all.
Well, really, he should be a platoon player, right? I mean, it's pretty sad that now we're at the point where people who wanted Max Kepler gone before I left for vacation are now advocating that Max Kepler stays in platoons and plays right field with Castellanos. That's how bad it is for Castellanos, that people actually don't want Kepler to go because they'd rather see him play right field half the time. Right. Now, let's get into a couple other things. Turner has not been great the last couple of weeks either. All right, the big money guys on the Phillies, in reality, in the last couple playoff failures, have also been the problem for this team in the playoffs. So you look at the last 2 weeks of Trey Turner, he's hitting .245 with a .322 on-base percentage. .322 is just not good enough for him being at the top of the order. At the end of the day, Trey Turner just has not been very good. He's been very average over the last 2 weeks. But they still have added 4 games in the standings with Trey Turner. Here's my thing. I think that Trey Turner has a much better chance to turn things around and get back to the player that he was earlier in the season, which isn't a great player, but it's still a very good player.
Right.
I think Bryce Harper is a very difficult one to comprehend right now. I don't know if that wrist is still a problem. I don't know what's kind of been his issue. He is certainly not the Bryce Harper. But what I will say about Bryce Harper is this. In his last 15 days, he's only hitting 200. He only has a 245 on base. He has no redeeming quality in there. But I will say he does still get on base in terms of, now the last 2 weeks he has not. But big picture, I think Bryce Harper is still somebody that pitchers don't want to throw to. His presence still matters in the lineup. Now, you want to talk about the last 2 weeks and talk about this guy, that guy, that guy. When I left, every tweet every single night of the week was, you got to pay Kyle Schwarber, sign him, sign him, sign him, sign him. Well, the last 7 days, he's hitting 148 with 12 strikeouts. I don't see any tweets saying you got to sign a guy with 12 strikeouts and 148 with a 233 on base.
You certainly hope not.
But what I do think is that Schwarber has a better chance of kind of pulling himself out of that. He has a presence in the lineup. Nick Castellanos does not. There's your difference. Turner, yeah, struggling. Not what you want him to be, has shown flashes.
Correct.
Harper has a presence, shown flashes. Schwarber, obviously struggling right now, has shown flashes. Even JT Realmuto, you can bring up that he's an overpaid guy. But even that, he offers, his defense is still very outstanding in terms of the way he calls and handles the staff and the way he throws. He brings a redeeming quality to the team. Nick Castellanos has no redeeming quality. Zero. None. Zippo. Buckus. And if I remember any of the the Czech words that I learned in the last week or two, I'd throw one of those in as well. Niet. None.
That's none, yeah.
I think that's German.
I thought that was Russian.
Could be. That being said, this team is 5 games up in the East. When I left, they were a game and a half up. All right? So it is not all bad. I know the Mets are 1-9 in their last 10. Phillies, in their last 10, they are 6-4. They just lost 3 in a row here. It happens. It happens. 609, 403, 0973. We've got a lot on the plate today. Mike McGarry will give us some news and notes. Aaron Nola is going to pitch on Sunday, by the way. Another thing about this week. One, Nola threw apparently pretty well on Wednesday. Yep. Well enough that he's going to pitch on Sunday morning.
Tuesday, yeah.
At 11:35, the Phillies play on Roku Sunday morning.
Yes, get ready.
11:35 Sunday morning. I think that's the pregame. I think the game starts at noon. Am I right about that, or is the first pitch actually?
11:35 was first pitch.
Is it an actual 11:35 first pitch?
11:35 first pitch. Yep.
All right, so it's 11:35 first pitch. Aaron Nola is going to start that game.
You get your coffee ready.
So they're going to go to a 6-man rotation. They do not have any women in the rotation, so I can say a 6-man rotation. A 6-man rotation. The way Thompson kind of explained it was they're going to go at least one time around with 6, and I think that's probably just to see how Nola kind of bounces back and make sure he's okay, and then I would think somebody gets phased out, most likely Taijuan Walker, who's actually pitched pretty well.
I wouldn't phase out Taijuan Walker at all. I've been making the argument all week, Mike, that after Wheeler and Sanchez, Walker might be your next most dependable pitcher at times.
Well, you're not going to use him out of the bullpen, so I don't know what you do with Walker. Now, Dave Dombrowski was on the Baseball Tonight podcast, which was today with Buster Olney. And he did kind of play his hand a little bit here about what he expects to do in the postseason. Here is what Dave Dombrowski told the Baseball Tonight podcast.
The fortunate part for us is we're deep with our starting pitchers. So we're not going to be able to throw all those pitchers in the postseason in a starting basis. So 1 or 2 of them will end up back in the bullpen, and we have 3 left-handed starting pitchers. So for us, it made it where we weren't looking for a left-handed reliever necessarily in the postseason for that trading deadline, because we felt we had the 2 and we could move somebody else from our starting rotation.
So he said something there. We thought we had the 2. It's not Sanchez.
No.
It's Luzardo. Now, last night you could talk about the Luzardo game. I saw a lot of people complaining that the Phillies left him in, which is interesting. Because if he was pitching like he did early in the season, what do people do? They complain that you take him out. Oh, he was cruising along. Why'd you take him out? Well, now you have more data. He gets to around 100 pitches, and that's why you take him out. Last night, they left him in. Now, I personally, the game last night, all right, the game last night, you go to the Phillies are up, what's it, 2-1 in the seventh inning, all right? Phillies are up 2-1 in the seventh. Luzardo starts the seventh inning. Would you have taken him out?
Yes.
Okay.
But you could have theorized after you walked two guys, you could have taken him out as well. Again, we get back to...
I think I would have taken him out after the leadoff walk. At that point, I think the leadoff walk for me is enough to say, all right, I gave you the opportunity, and you walked the guy. I say this all the time to the kid. Listen, I'll let you start the inning. You walk one guy, you're done. Especially if it's the leadoff guy.
Because the problem, Mike, is that, and this is what we were talking about when you were away, which is there have been multiple games now with Jose Luzardo, with Ranger Suarez, just in the last 2 weeks, where they have left these guys in way too long. And there's a part of me that's wondering, what is the plan here? What is the purpose of leaving these guys in past their expiration date? Like when Ranger gave up 3 runs in the first 5 innings the other day. You could have said, hey, Ranger, you got us through 5 innings. You fought hard. You survived. But instead, they left him out there to get himself abused in the next inning.
Yeah,
same thing with Luzardo. Why do you have the numbers, Mike? You know this guy has trouble the third time through a lineup.
Yep.
Why do you keep trotting him out there?
Yeah, in the seventh last night, I probably would have taken him out of the game as well. Because why? We have said before, if I can get my guy to the seventh,
right.
In the seventh, now, here's my issue, right? I have Kirkering, who could start that inning in the seventh.
You could.
Here's the problem there. They didn't even have anybody warmed up from my knowledge, from what I understand.
No one was up in the pen at the beginning of the inning.
That's the mistake there. If you want to let Luzardo go out there, okay. I'm a little indifferent on that.
Right.
I probably would have taken him out because what I want to see is my pitcher goes 6, and then I have the combination of Kirkering. I now have Robertson, who just got up here, and I guess he threw the other day.
Yeah, he threw the other day in Cincinnati.
I'll have Alvarado soon, but I won't have him for the playoffs, so I don't know how to feel about that. But I have Kirkering, I have Strom, and of course I have Duran. The best case scenario for me is my guy goes 6 and I have a lead. And then I go Kirkering, Strom in some order, and then I have in the 7th and then the 8th, and then I have Duran. Because as Dave Dombrowski kind of explained here, he said that Thompson was so excited to get him because now he can build from the back to the front in trying to get to the end of a game instead of the way they've been doing it the last couple of years.
It's been a while since we've had a situation where we've had a dominant closer. We kind of mixed and matched. We've had some guys that have done a good job for us, but all of a sudden be in a position, when you can have that guy in the 9th inning and then build back off of that. Rob Thompson was thrilled with the opportunity. And then him coming in that game on that Friday night, our place, which is always electric, you dial it up a couple notches, even in the 9th inning when he came out with the show, all the videos with the light show. So it was a tremendous feeling and atmosphere in the ballpark, and it's a great feeling going forward.
Yeah, when you have the guy at the back end of the bullpen that you can now work from him forward instead of saying, I don't even know what we're going to do when we get to the 9th because I don't really have a guy there. So we have to kind of use our best sometimes in the 7th just to make sure we can get to the 9th. Now, at least you have the guy in the 9th, and it's like, how do we get ourselves to him? So it's a little different way to manage the bullpen. I know one of the things that was funny, I was reading while I was gone, everybody hates the platoons, but the first couple days when the Phillies were winning, the platoons were kind of working out because Kepler was productive.
And by the way, we pointed this out because you weren't here for this, but during the series in Texas, Mike, they said to Rob Thompson in the postgame, they told him, like, hey, Rob, these platoons are working out. You're pushing the right buttons. You know what Rob Thompson said? He says, I'm not pushing the right buttons. These guys are doing a great job out there. He's like, I'm not, I deserve no credit, he said.
Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, and he's right, really. I mean, he doesn't deserve the credit for guys doing their job. Hey, there's a left-handed pitcher. This guy's not good against left-handed pitchers, so you're going to play. These are the guys I've been given. If you hit, I look great. If you don't hit, I look stupid. It's how baseball kind of works sometimes. Hey, Sports Bash is busy next week. We're going to be on location Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Stop out and see us Monday at Ocean. Wednesday, our final Phillies watch party of the summer at Yuri's. And on Friday, we'll be at Ventnor Social with another chance for you to take your picture with the Lombardi Trophy, getting ready for the Eagles season. Eagles tomorrow taking on the Cleveland Browns. You can listen to the game. Pre-game starts at noon. The kickoff with Merrill and Mike at 1 o'clock right here on your home for Eagles football, 97.3 ESPN. All right, coming back, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. The Phillies have lost 3 in a row. Who are they? The team that lost 3 in a row, the team that built that lead up to 6 games while I was gone. Which team do we feel is more indicative of the Phillies that we'll get? See what Mike McGarry thinks. Coming up next on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. 2:32. It is a happy hour Friday. Now, I spent my last few happy hour Fridays. I was in Portugal on Friday last week, and this week I'm back here. But we had a good time checking out the different libations around the countries. I highly recommend Prague. That was fantastic. If you ever have a chance to go. I do have an interesting story I want to get people's take on a little bit later in the show. Maybe we'll do it during the Nuggets segment, see what Nuggets thinks. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com, set to join us. Mike, when I left, the Phillies were a game and a half up. They are now 5 up. Yet, today, I feel like people aren't happy with the Phillies. Funny how that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really amazing how it goes day to day, and it's not just Phillies fans. I think it's Mets fans, it's Dodger fans, it's Yankee fans. I mean, everybody warns everybody not to overreact to a single game of baseball, but it's almost impossible to do, and I can't blame the fans just because it's so frustrating. It's almost like the Phillies are perfect or they look like the '62 Mets. So there's just no in between, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at what the Phillies have kind of done the last couple of weeks, the last week and a half, 10 days since I was gone. Very Phillies, right? Good pitching, couple timely hits, close games, 4-2, 4-1, not a lot of runs scored. They win, they extend the lead, and then those offensive nights where they go ice cold and showed up the last couple nights here. And those are the games that the Phillies fans are worried about, right, Mike? It's the ones where they know the pitching's good enough, but if you lose 3-2 or you don't score more than 1 run, we've seen those games the last 3 playoff series.
Yeah, and that puts a spotlight when you're not scoring a lot of runs, which they haven't the last couple of days. That puts a spotlight on the manager, some of his decisions last night, Soto bunting, playing the infield back or up, pulling Luzardo from the game at the right time. Then the focus is on the manager even more. I just don't – this is who the Phillies are, Mike. They're a team that kind of can blow hot and cold. And I think their success in the postseason, they're going to probably hit a stretch in the postseason where they hit the ball well, and they're going to hit a stretch in the postseason where they don't hit it well. And the question is, can they pitch good enough and can they scratch out enough runs to win the games where they're not hitting the ball over the fence or where everything in the lineup is not clicking? And that's not only a question for the Phillies, that's a question for every team out there.
It is. Now, you talk about, Mike, the offense, and it's funny. I woke up this morning, I was laughing, and I started the show with this text message I got from a friend of mine. He says, "Welcome back. Castellanos sucks. That's all you missed." So I said, man, did Castellanos but I feel like he is like the epitome of all of the problems that the offense has, right? Other guys, they go up and down and they kind of get streaky. And while he's very streaky, I said, his WAR is minus 1.1. He has not one redeeming quality where you feel like, he might come out of it. Like Harper hasn't had a great season, but, he gets on base still. His OPS is, his on base percentage is pretty good. He's still a presence in the lineup. Turner got off to a great start. Then he's kind of come back to the pack. But, ultimately, Turner's a good player. Not what you thought you were getting for 300. Castellanos, you're starting to get to the point where you're almost thinking about a platoon over there now, if he's lucky.
Yeah, 2 things with Castellanos' situation. The first one is, Mike, 2 weeks ago, people were texting me, coming up to me on the street, talking to me as I walked out of Wawa and saying, what is Max Kepler doing on the team? This team has got to DFA Max Kepler. He has no value whatsoever. Why is he even playing? Today, people are texting me, talking to me, saying Max Kepler has got to start in right field for Nick Castellanos. Nick Castellanos must go to the bench. So Nick Castellanos giving his friend Max Kepler a boost there. But I think you're right, Mike. I looked at Nick Castellanos' numbers, particularly the WAR numbers. I was surprised how bad he is. If you look at that number, he ranks among the worst players in all of baseball. But my eyes alone, Mike, have told me since the All-Star game, and really almost since that time he got into that that flap with Rob Thompson over being taken out for defensive reasons when they were in Miami against the Marlins. I think he has just been atrocious. His at-bats have been atrocious. His approach at the plate has been atrocious. He's won for his last 29, and it's fair to say, does this guy need a few days off? can you keep running him out there and just hoping, well, he's Nick Castellanos, he's streaky, sooner or later he's going to hit? How many ball games is he going to cost you while you're waiting for that streak to come? And is that streak going to be long enough to worth all the misery you're seeing from him right now? I question they traded for Harrison Bader. Why doesn't this guy play all the time? Put Harrison Bader in center field, put Brandon Marsh in left field, and then maybe platoon Kepler and Castellanos in right field and see how that rolls for you. I think that's a very realistic way to go. Otherwise, I don't think you're getting the most out of Harrison Bader and what you traded for him.
Well, I said earlier, at this point, you put Kepler and Castellanos, you got a $30 million right fielder, and see if you can maximize the two of them out there. But you mentioned Bader there, and it goes back to the trade deadline. They got Duran. The first couple nights were fun, but if you can't get to him, you look back at that trade deadline and say, was the closer the biggest problem, or did they again not address the real big problem, which is they lack that right-handed bat in the middle of the lineup?
Yeah, I would say this, though. I think getting Duran was a tremendous move for them. I think they got the right guy. I mean, look at what Helsley has kind of imploded for the Mets, including last night as they try to use him as an eighth-inning guy. That move right now doesn't look that great. Bednar with the Yankees doesn't look that great. Getting Duran guy changes the whole back of that bullpen and actually shortens the game for them. So that was a good move. But I agree with you. You know, the bugaboo of this team has been that right-handed at bat. Maybe you've got it in Harrison Bader, but you're just not playing him all the time. And I think, put him out there. Let's go with the platoon in right. Let's go with Brandon Marsh in left. Let's go with Harrison Bader in center field, and let's run them out there for a week and see what happens, see what kind of results you get. Maybe Harrison Bader isn't the answer, but at least let's give him a chance 4 or 5 games in a row to show what he can do.
Yeah, I want to get your take on this because obviously I've been out for about 10 days here, and I have not heard any updates. Any inclination from you that Justin Crawford is a part of their plan this season?
It doesn't seem like that's the case. They say that if they want to promote him, they want him to play every day. So do they have a spot for him to play every day? I don't think so. And again, I just go back to the fact, Mike, watch what teams do, not what they say. Watch what they do, not what they say. If they thought Justin Crawford was an answer, a guy who could help them down the stretch in the outfield, in center or left field, why trade for Harrison Bader, right? If you think Crawford's the answer, promote Crawford and don't trade for Bader. Trading for Bader tells me that they don't think that Crawford is ready yet to contribute to a team in the middle of a pennant race.
All right, so there was a lot of people before I left that were kind of throwing out today's date, the 15th, is the last day that he can keep his rookie status, and that tomorrow they'll miraculously call him up because they would have team control for him next year, meaning he would still be a rookie next year. Do we think there's any shot that that's the path they go, or is this outfield the way they're going to go in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think this is, barring an injury, I think this is the way they kind of go in the playoffs. I've heard those, service time arguments, but I would just say this, Mike, if you bring up Crawford, who is going down or who is being released off the roster, if you bring up Crawford. You're not releasing Castellanos. Are you releasing Kepler now that he's kind of turned it around? Are you releasing, Brandon Marsh? No, he's playing well. You just traded for Harrison Bader. You're not going to release him. I mean, if you bring Crawford up, who is the guy who is going down? And keep in mind, you're bringing back Alec Boehm in a couple days, so that means either Weston Wilson or I'm blanking on the name of the guy.
Otto Kemp.
Otto Kemp, yeah. Either Weston Wilson or Otto Kemp has got to go down. So, I just don't see a spot right now for Crawford. And again, I come back to the fact that if they thought Crawford could do it, why did they trade for Harrison Bader 2 weeks ago?
All right. I kind of I'm intrigued to see what they do there because I bring that up because they're going with a 6-man rotation for now. You still have Andrew Painter kind of looming. I would imagine that he's not looming enough to do anything with him, but you might call him up for September call-up or something like that. I guess that's still an option there that either Painter or Crawford could be a September call-up.
Possibly, although I think, it's not like the old days where you could roster expand to 40 guys, right? I think you can only bring up 2 guys at a time, so that kind of changes it. To me, Andrew Painter only comes up if they need him for a spot start, if they need a starter, if one of the 6 guys they have currently in the rotation, has an injury or has to miss a start for some reason. That's the only way I think you see Andrew Painter. And, Mike, for all the ups and downs of the Phillies fans have heard about, for all the discussion about Nick Castellanos, for all the discussion about the offense, the bullpen, the biggest question this team faces and the biggest hurdle, I think, to playoff success is how the guy who takes the mound pitches tonight. Zach Wheeler, I think there's reason to be concerned velocity-wise, command-wise, going for an MRI, even though it was clean. I think tonight's start, how Wheeler pitches, I'm very interested to see how Zach Wheeler looks. That, to me, is the most important thing. Above everything else is Zach Wheeler's health.
I was going to get to him because I do want to get your thoughts on the 6-man rotation. They're going to go with Nola. Will pitch tomorrow, Sunday morning in that game. And you wonder if they're kind of watching tonight to think we got to go with a 6-man for the time being, because isn't that the way they kind of explain it? We're going to go at least one time around, and I guess tonight's game would be, hey, let's see how this looks tonight and then make a decision.
Yeah, they said one time around, Mike. I wouldn't be surprised if they did it for 2 or 3 times around. I think they're in the middle of a stretch now where they have something like 39 games in 40 days, something like that. And look, some of their pitchers are gasping for air. They took Wheeler out after his last start pitches, 83 pitches, 5 innings. Ranger Suarez can't even throw the ball 90 miles an hour. Okay, that's an issue. So some of their pitchers are kind of gasping for air, and I think this is a chance to give them a little bit more rest and give them a chance to sort of reset themselves. And look, if they get Aaron Nola back, and Nola pitched great in his last AAA start, if he can come back and be the Aaron Nola that we've seen in the past, that is a tremendous boost for this team. It's kind of adding a high-quality level starter for the final 6 weeks of the season. So, a big series here in Washington. Very curious to see how does Wheeler pitch tonight and what does Aaron Nola look like on Sunday. To me, those 2 factors are more important than what Nick Castellanos figures out in right field.
I would say, as you said, they're gasping for air. Last night's decision, a little curious then, to leave Luzardo out there for the 7th inning then, right?
Yeah, absolutely, especially when you have this bullpen now that you have kind of built up the depth in your bullpen with David Robinson, with Kirkland, with Strom, with Duran on the back end, basically, with Lazar, who has pitched well. So I was very surprised by that considering the depth of the bullpen. And I heard you say before that, you would have pulled them after the first walk in the 7th inning. I wouldn't have let him go out for the 7th. If you're going to pull him, if he gives up a hit or a walk, to a batter in the 7th inning, just pull him after 6 and allow that reliever to come in and start a clean inning in the 7th.
Well, what I said, I would have actually pulled him, but if I did let him go back out there, it would have been with the caveat, one guy gets on, you're done.
Right. I agree. Look, the manager is not going to – they play 162 games. Occasionally the manager is going to go 0 for 4 too. I didn't think Rob Thompson had a very good game last night. Now, I'm not ready to – sound the alarms there. I just thought his decisions didn't work out, and I would have pulled Luzardo after 6 innings, especially with the way you have constructed this bullpen now to kind of – that's why you went out and got Duran, so you could push guys down, so you could throw a guy in the 7th inning and kind of take it home from there.
All right, Mike McGarry, we got the weekend coming up here against the Nationals. Don't forget a Roku game on Sunday morning, a little 11:35. Have a mimoso. With that one there is Aaron Nola will make his return for the Phillies. And, of course, you can check out all the coverage. You got the high school football getting ready to start 2 weeks before you got to go back to work. Hardcore, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 weeks from yesterday, 2 weeks from today, I'll be driving to Delaware because some reason Mainland Regional and Atlantic City are playing in Wilmington, Delaware to open the season. So I'll be over the Delaware Memorial Bridge probably at this time 2 weeks from today. But a great time of year. You got baseball winding down. You got high school football. You got the NFL. And, hey, Phillies fans, keep your eye out west. Padres-Dodgers, big series this weekend will impact the Phillies, so a lot to look forward to this weekend.
All right, Mike, have a good weekend, man.
All right, we'll see you down the road. Thank you.
All right, there's Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City here on the Sports Bash, and he's right. I was going to bring up the standings because while I was away, the Padres are now in first place out west, and that sets up an interesting schedule potentially in the playoffs. But the Phillies right now, they do have a 5-game lead. I want to get into some more of that. 609-403-0973. We got some text messages we'll read and react to on the other side. You could jump in. Thoughts on the Phils? Trusting them, not trusting them, liking this team, hating this team, frustrated by this team. How you feeling on a Happy Hour Friday? And let us know what you're having on the Happy Hour Friday. Send them in right now, 609-403-0973. Give me something good for the weekend. Tomorrow, you got Eagles football at 1 o'clock, followed by the Phillies at 4 o'clock. That sounds like a Happy Hour Saturday. More Sports Bash coming up on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 252, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. All right, here's a question. Who's the jerk here? Who's wrong? So we did a bus trip to go see some town somewhere in Czech Republic.
Sure.
Český Kremlov, it's called.
Sounds like fun.
It's as if, think Smithville, but real.
Oh, that's
It's
cool.
not like a man-made Smithville. It's like an actual, just shops and stuff everywhere.
I'm in.
This small little town out in the middle of Czech Republic, 2.5 hours outside of Prague.
Cool.
So we had to meet at this spot, and it was like a tour guide. The tour took us out there, the whole 9 yards. They tell you about the history of the town. There's a castle out there, yada, yada, yada. We get on the bus. There's 2 seats open. So there's a woman, say she was a bigger woman.
Okay.
She was sitting by herself in one seat. The seat next to her was open. There was a gentleman, an older man. I wouldn't say like a big man, but he was bigger. He's sitting in an empty seat, and there's an empty seat next to him. That was my seat next to him. My girlfriend sat next to the woman. It was the most dreadful ride of all time. The seats were too small for all of us. And every other seat was filled by couples. So on the way back, are you in the assigned seat that you got there on the way there in, or is it a free-for-all to take any seat you want?
If there is assigned seats on your way
There wasn't assigned seats. But is it one of those things where hey, I sat in that seat on the way here, I get that seat on the way home?
I think that would be the courtesy thing you do.
Yeah, me and my girlfriend sat next to each other. I said, I'm not sitting next to that guy again. And she said, well, I'm not sitting next to that lady again. And that guy got on the bus. Now, he didn't speak any English, but he was angered. He did not want to sit next to that woman. He was trying everything possible. Who's the jerk here? Is it me and my girlfriend? Are we the jerks? More Sports Bash coming up. All right, hour 2 of the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. This hour brought to you by Broadleaf's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing, service, and installation for generations. 609-390-3907, online at broadleafs.net. So what I didn't tell you in that story real fast, Josh, see, the reason I wanted to get out of the seat that I was in next to the gentleman is because on the way up there, he fell asleep and was snoring and fell all over me. He kept hitting me and, like, elbowing me, and he slept the whole ride up there. Now, I was like, I'm not sitting next to this guy the way back. So I said, he's going to have to sit next to that lady.
See, that's a huge violation by that guy. See, you can't be the guy who makes the other person next to you. Like, we were having this conversation a few days ago, Mike, about airplanes. It's the idea that, like, Nick was asking me, hey, can you sleep on an airplane? I said, well, if the person in front of me or the person next to me doesn't make it uncomfortable, because that's a problem. If you're not respecting the other person's space, the other person's the violator.
That's another problem. So because he was asleep, the leg room he gave me was minimal because his legs just opened up like
poor.
Yeah.
Horrible. See, he deserved losing his seat.
I did not feel bad. Now, I did have like a little, like, listen, I felt bad. Like, I'm like, I kind of feel bad this guy because he obviously did not want to sit next to that woman. She, as I said, she was a larger woman. And one of the reasons why my girlfriend didn't want to sit next to her is because that woman was taking up half of her seat. So there was very little room on that seat. So that guy, he was looking around and saw, now I have no room. And I said, well, too bad. Because
Right.
if you didn't snore on me on the way here,
exactly,
I probably would have sat next to you
if
again.
that guy would not have violated your space, I think you would have been more likely to be, okay, I'll sit with that guy again.
I would have been. He wasn't a bad guy. We had nothing in common. I mean, he didn't speak the same language as me, but I had no problem with him. Could have been a buddy, a pal. But instead, he fell asleep and snored on me and then took my space. And I said, you know what? I'm not doing a 2-hour drive back. Sit next to this guy again. Because you know what happened?
Karma.
Everybody in it was a little group of 5 of them. There was 2 couples and then him. He was like the third wheel. They all fell asleep, and the poor guy couldn't go to sleep then because he had to sit next to the uncomfortable person.
Yeah, karma.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? She had the only seat open, and he was walking up and down the bus aisle looking for an empty seat. I felt bad for her because he's obviously did not want to sit next to her. But who's the jerk? You sleep on me, I take the seat. Now, again, I go back to the question is, if you sat in the seat on the way to the place, John McMullen, is it then assumed that you sit in the same seat on the bus ride home?
I don't know what I walk into, but if I'm on the bus first, I'm taking what seat I want.
Even if you rode, okay, so
allotted.
This is like one of those like tours. There's like, say, 20 of us on the tour, okay? So we're on like a jitney-sized van, like 20 seats.
No, that's like an airport shuttle. I'm just going for the best seat.
Right. Well, everybody, so when we got there, we were the last 2 there. So you can say, well, you were the last 2. That's your fault. There were 2 seats open. There was a larger woman who had a seat next to her open, and then an older gentleman who had a seat next to him. We took those seats because they were all that was left. It was a 2.5-hour drive. The man snored and fell asleep the whole ride, and he kept falling on me. And his arm, like he had it up on the seat in front of him, and then it would fall off and it would hit me. And I was like, I'm not sitting. And by the way, the seats were tiny to begin with. I'm in Europe, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a bigger guy too, so I get some blame here. So I said, I'm not dealing with this for 2.5 hours on the way home. Those 2 single people, they could sit next to each other. Everybody else was sitting with their spouse. Why can't I?
Well, yeah, I'm all for. Well, Europeans are more comfortable, I think, than we are. So, I mean, most people aren't going to sleep on people. So that's the thing. Where were you, Lisbon or Prague?
At this point, we were in Prague, going to some little remote town in the Czech Republic called something Kremlov. Český Kremlov was the name of this little picturesque town. But I could tell. So when we got back, everybody sat in the same seats except for us 2.
Yeah, I would have switched it up. Yeah, I have no problem. I'm not going to let some guy sleep on me for 2.5 hours.
Now, the woman in front of us, she turned around and said, after the whole trip was over, she said, "That guy sat on my leg the whole trip home." Well, she was a larger woman, and I said, and that's why we didn't want to sit next to you, because she was taking up another seat. And I feel bad because she was a nice person, but it made a 2.5-hour drive tough. And I'm sure, by the way,
2.5-hour drive is tough to begin with.
Yeah, especially when you only have half a seat.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm sure when they walked on the bus and saw me and said, "I don't want to get stuck sitting next to that guy either." So I feel for these people. All right, John. Eagles preseason game number 2 tomorrow. Let's start with, is there any players of substance that you're interested in seeing tomorrow?
I'd rather take a 2.5-hour drive with some guy sleeping on, to be honest. Preseason football's tough, and obviously joint practice week with Cleveland. So, all the key players basically are going to sit and got their work in practice. So, it is what it is. You're looking for the younger players in some of the competitions on defense, which haven't work themselves out, which has got to be a disappointment at this stage. We're halfway through August, and at some of these positions, things are expanding, not contracting. That to me is not a positive sign. So, but it's important for certain guys, and I think starting with Keely Ringo and Jacorian Bennett. Keely had a really poor week while you were in Europe, so he's really got to turn things around. And Jacorian Bennett obviously just got here. He's not been impressive. So there's some issues to deal with.
Yeah, I was going to say, as much as they don't want to play some of these guys, they might have to, or are they not going to utilize this game in the competition?
No, they're going to utilize it for those guys. But, there's very few competitions, and most of them are on defense. If you look at offense, Tyler Steen is already won the right guard job, so I doubt they even play him. Now, Landon Dickerson's out, so Brett Toth is going to have to play. Darian Kennard's going to have to play. But that's about it on offense when it comes to the projected key contributors. Defensively, Ringo's got to play, Bennett's got to play, Makuba's got to play, Sidney Brown, Aziz Ojolari, Josh Uche, guys like that. So you're going to see some projected people that are supposed to play or at least penciled in to play on defense, not so much on offense.
Yeah, so talking with John McMullen, Birds 365, of course, Sports Illustrated, Eagles and Browns tomorrow. Let's kind of look at those things after the first game as we head after these 2 practices here. They brought Bennett in right before I left. I had heard good things about Bennett from the people who covered the Raiders. They liked him a lot, just didn't think he fit in Pete Carroll's. He likes those bigger, more physical guys. They thought he was the best corner out there last year, people told me who cover the Raiders. So has he just not had enough time? Does he even factor in this? Is it a 2-horse race? Is that corner probably the one spot that still is the most unresolved?
Yeah, certainly, and I think he's added to it. So, right now, Adoree Jackson is clearly the best, but it doesn't seem like Vic wants to go in that direction. So, they have more speed with Bennett and Ringo. Ringo's not played well. Bennett, he played a limited number of snaps in Las Vegas, but played decently in those snaps. So it's a little bit of a Isaiah Rodgers resume, a little bit undersized as well, but very fast. Part of it is, he's just been here for just over a week. So you got to give him a chance to catch up and learn the defense, which is different from what he was in Las Vegas. So I think there's hope with Jacorian Bennett. I think that hope is sort of diminishing with Keely Ringo, who had a really tough stretch. So right now, the position as a whole just doesn't look very good.
What about safety? What are we feeling about the safety spot here? The injury stuff kind of mixes and makes this a little more difficult, I would guess, to handicap.
Yeah, Makuba ended up missing 6 days of team drills, so that hurt him. And they're trying to sort of, I think, kickstart that again as we get towards the process. It's pretty clear that They want to get to Makuba. They prefer to have Makuba because he's a better coverage player. He's comfortable in space. Sidney Brown's more. You saw they did a lot of red zone on Thursday in practice with the Browns, and Sidney was pretty good. But that's what he does well. Then going downhill, a very condensed area. He's not as comfortable in space. Makuba's comfortable in space, but he doesn't have the size. He can't, support the run like Sidney Brown. He can't crash in the red zone. He's gotten beaten. He got beaten by Harold Fannett Jr. often in practice. Dallas Goedert uses his body well against him. So it's almost like you'd like to piecemeal it and maybe turn that into a rotational position. But then you got Cooper DeJean in the base defense, so you can't use three guys. So the hope is that one of those guys wins the job, and if it's a meritocracy, Sidney's going to be the week 1 starter. Now, again, week 1 is not week 4 or week 8. So just because somebody's out there to start doesn't mean they're going to be out there to finish.
John, let's get we kind of cruising around the corner, back to the safety. Let's go to the linebacking spot. Give me your read on that spot. Campbell, is he in the mix? Jeremiah Trotter Jr., heard a lot of good things about him. What's your read on the off-ball linebacker position heading into preseason number 2?
Yeah, I think Trotter's been just solid throughout the summer, and Campbell's probably not quite ready, so maybe you start with Zach Bond and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and have Campbell come in sub-package situations and try to get him involved there. Ultimately, obviously, where they want to end up is Jahad Campbell, but I think people place too much emphasis on week 1. And you saw it last year with Cooper. Now, with Cooper DeJean, it was more injury-related, but he wasn't a starter week 1, and he ended up just fine. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why people get so hyper-focused, especially with younger players. It takes them a little bit longer. It's not the end of the world. And you continue the development and you get more comfortable, and all of a sudden, things might click.
Yeah, and then, of course, you got the edge rushing spot. You got Ojulari and Uche, 2 veteran players, but how is that battle is it definitively Hunt winning that position?
Well, it was interesting because they've started cross-training Jalix Hunt at left end. They call it an overhang position, but he's generally been on the right end. And he got a lot of second-team reps behind Nolan Smith on the left end. They were looking at Uche and Ojulari at right end, and even Obo. So a lot of different bodies, and that's a lot of uncertainty. But it was a little surprising that they moved Jalix Hunt away, at least for a couple practices. Still the clear favorite, but I think that's another position that there's a lot of questions about, even with Jalix Hunt, because a lot of unproven.
What's happening at the tackle spot now as we enter game number 2? We're going to see a lot of the guys in the competition for that spot tomorrow.
Well, certainly not Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Morrow, Joe. You're talking about defensive tackle. Everybody, the Ty Robbins of the world, the Gabe Halls of the world, the Byron Youngs of the world. It's going to be their game. But no, defensively, that's one of the more set positions, defensive tackle. With a 5-man front, it's Jordan at nose, and the 4 eyes are Jalen Carter and Moro Ajomo, and if they go to 40, it's usually Carter and Ajomo, but Davis will mix in there as well. So those are clearly the top 3 guys, and they'll be deference players tomorrow, as I like to call them.
All right, a little look on the defensive side of the ball there is the Eagles getting ready to take on the Browns. They've had 2 practices this week with the Browns, and a lot of battles still to be decided as John kind of maps out there for you. On the offensive side of the ball, you tweeted out a couple things that caught my eye. One is, looks like there's no competition at right guard. Tyler Steen's winning that position. But are you surprised Brett Toth is the guy that is getting the starting snaps at left guard, and would he be the guy if Dickerson, and we can get more on Dickerson, he's handing beers out, so he seems like he might be okay. But would Brett Toast be the guy, and are you surprised by that?
Yeah, a little bit. Part of Kenyon Green's hurt as well, so maybe that would have been his opening to make the team and maybe get going back on the right direction, but he's hurt. So, really you're down to the third left guard in the short term. But what's telling to me is Darren Kennard, who has, played at 13 practices, he played on the right side, either right guard or right tackle, and they moved him to the left side to take second-team reps. Ultimately, if Landon's not able to go in week one, I think Darren Kennard's going to win that job. But, Brett at least has a chance, and, he's probably going to start tomorrow, and if he plays well, got a chance to lock it down. But I think they like Kennard as a player better. And I think ultimately, as long as he can handle that move from right to left, I think he'd be the next guy up.
So what is your outlook? I know when I was away, I saw, Dickerson got hurt, and there was some takes that it's a meniscus, that he could be ready for week one. You've been around him the last couple of days of practice. He seems pretty spry. Are you getting a better feel that, week one seems realistic?
Yeah, with him, sometimes, he might be the toughest guy on the team. So if you let him play through it, he'll be there. But sometimes you got to be cautious and protect guys from themselves. It's a quick turnaround. But, they didn't do the full repair. They did the trim. So it's generally only 3-4 week injury at the most. So if he's not there week one, he's going to be there week 2 or week 3 at worst case scenario. So you just got to persevere until he's back. But he had surgery Wednesday, and he was back on the practice field handing out beers on Thursday. So there's Lando for you.
Tremendous story. All right, John McMullen, Birds 365, of course, weekday mornings, 8 a.m. Although during these training camps, it's a little adjusted sometimes. Just follow him at JF McMullen to watch the show when they air it. And, of course, what about the tight end spot? Calcaterra, the backup group of guys that they brought in, is that something to keep an eye on tomorrow?
Well, I think Kylan Granson has been the guy who, if they keep 3 tight ends, he's going to be the third tight end. Last year they only kept 2 to start the season because they wanted to go heavy at other positions, and then you have 2 on the practice squad, so they can go about it that way as well. But yeah, clearly 1-2 is Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra. Grant's not getting pushed, so Kylan's kind of distanced himself from the back end guys. I would say E.J. Jenkins would be 4, Harrison Bryant 5, Nick Muse 6, and Cam Latu 7. They have 7 tight ends. So, and they're deeper than usual because some of the, Harrison Bryant can play a little bit. E.J. Jenkins, they like his upside, but Kylan Granson has been the best of the back of the group.
All right, and then of course you've got I don't know. Is there a battle for the 4th, 5th, 6th wide receiver spots? Is that where we are?
Yeah, well, I think Johnny Wilson is locked down 1 spot. Anaya Smith, a heavy favorite, I would say. So those are your top 5, and then it becomes, do you want to keep 6? And that's where Darius Cooper's kind of made some inroads as an undrafted guy. He's sort of been the camp darling. And you can see they're trying to work him out on kickoff returns, kick coverage on special teams. They're trying to see if he can do that because if you're going to be a 5th, 6th receiver on an NFL team, you got to help on special teams. So they're trying to see if he can do that. But yeah, Johnny Wilson and Anaya Smith look like they're going to be 4 and 5.
All right, John, who starts a quarterback tomorrow? How much and how much? I'm assuming it will be. I can't think of his name right now. I've been away so long. I can't remember the McKee, Tanner
Dorian
McKee,
Thompson Robinson. Oh, Tanner. Yeah, no, I don't think you're going to see Tanner tomorrow.
So Tanner's got to the point now where even he doesn't play in a preseason game.
Yeah, if he does, it'll be like he's a starter. So you might see 1 series and then out.
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a heavy Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Tom McCord game. So be prepared.
I like that. That's a 1 o'clock game right here on 97.3 ESPN. DTR, Kyle McCord. How's the running back position behind Barkley going?
Good. Will's having a good summer. Will Shipley, A.J. Dillon's healthy. That was a big question mark there, and he's looked good. So those are going to be your three backs, and they'll keep Ben Van Sumeren as the fullback, and that'll be the backfield. They like Montrell Johnson a lot, who's a undrafted kid. He's probably your practice squad running back, but yeah, they're pretty deep at running back. It was an ugly two practices from an offensive perspective, except when they were running inside zone on day one, and it didn't matter who it was. Barkley, Shipley, Dillon, they were just gouging people. And then the second day, Barkley kind of sat. And Lane didn't play. He was resting. AJ's out with a hamstring. Landon's out, obviously. So it's kind of ugly offensively on Thursday.
All right, John McMullen here. Of course, the football season is back. Johnny Mack is back. You can check him out, Birds 365, weekday mornings, 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel, Sports Illustrated, where you can check out all his written word coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles. By the way, did you see any of this? Nick Foles the last couple of days has been dishing out some nuggets on the Philly special.
The real play call.
The real play call, but today, or maybe it was yesterday, I don't remember. I don't know which day it is at this point right now, but he said they were going to use it in the Minnesota game, but he said his ribs were bothering him and they didn't think that the play would work, so they held off on using it. Did you see that?
Yeah, and they didn't need it in that game because they Patrick Robinson and Chris Long stole their souls, so they didn't need it in that game.
Well, but he did mention the play that they called instead ended up being a touchdown to Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, everything was a touchdown in that game, which is ironic because Minnesota got the ball first and scored right away. So you said, "Uh-oh, what's going on here?" And then the floodgates open.
Well, good stuff from Nick Foles. What is he starting a podcast or something?
I don't know. That I don't know. But I have seen the clips of him on social media and things.
All right, John. Well, enjoy the game tomorrow, man. I can't wait to break it all down on Monday.
All right, sounds good. I hope you enjoyed Europe except for your shuttle excursions.
I enjoyed it greatly, John. If you can ever make it to Prague, you would enjoy it.
I like the look of Prague from afar, but I don't like traveling, Mike. So
Well, if you had to travel with the gentleman that sat next to me for 6,
well, that's the exact reason why. So, if we can get to a future where they're beaming us places, I'll go tomorrow.
We'll see what I can do about that. All right.
All right.
Take care,
Appreciate
man.
It.
All right, John McMullen, everybody. Of course, Johnny Mack is back for the football season right here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. There was a time when I wasn't a big fan of traveling either, like being in a plane for that long, but I've kind of gotten used to it. But I will say, we had seats where we sat next to each other, just 2 seats next to each other, didn't have anybody next to us. That is a big help. Plus, these long flights, they have them down. Right? They have them down to where, they know when to feed you, when to turn the lights off, like the movie, yada, yada. You pick the movie. Like yesterday, I downloaded the Every Given Saturday on Netflix. It's 7 episodes of all SEC, kind of like a Hard Knocks SEC version. Really good stuff. I watched that. I watched the Malice at the Palace Netflix episode. 2 episodes of the Jerry Springer documentary, and by that time we were done. The thing was over. I mean, you eat somewhere, you mix in there. It's not as bad as I used to just. There's no way, and then, now I've kind of mind over matter. Mind over matter it is, my friends. Got a couple text messages I want to get to. 609-403-0973. Mike, Joe from Summers Point. Mike, there's only one way to look at this. You're on vacation. You're taking a tour with your girlfriend. You and your girlfriend have every right to sit next to each other on the bus. The fact that 2 seats together were not available on the way out doesn't mean anything on the way back. Nobody's promised a seat, and you guys deserve to sit together. The fact that the other guy was mad, oh, well, you'll never see him again in your life. You're right, Joe. And you know what's funny? We have been laughing about that for 2 days now, just laughing and laughing. I said, man, that guy was angered. He was angered. And we met two nice people from Australia and talked to them the whole ride home. It's a pretty nice conversation. Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. When we come back, my Friday 5, Week 13 and 14. Week 13 is Thanksgiving in the NFL. My 5 favorite games for Week 13 and 14 coming up next on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 3:31 this hour brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, cooling, plumbing, service, installation for generations. 609-390-3907 online, broadlees.net. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Haven't seen a Phillies lineup yet. Have seen an Iron Pigs lineup. Justin Crawford in center field today. Alec Boehm is the DH. I guess Boehm, we haven't talked enough about Boehm and how much they're kind of missing Boehm as well. The third base situation has been a disaster since Boehm has kind of gone away. This Otto Kemp thing's not really working out all that much. I think Sosa has kind of cooled off a little bit. Sosa, 266 with a 305 on base. 266 is not bad. 305 is not very good for an on-base percentage for a guy like Sosa. So, they need to get Boehm back in the lineup, and that should add to this lineup a little bit. Getting Boehm, look, I'm not a big Boehm fan of hitting in the middle of the lineup. I wish Boehm had the opportunity, but if you put him in the 4 spot, I don't know what they're going to do. Real Muto's been hitting 4 the last couple of weeks. What do? You put Boehm 4, you put Real Muto 5. They've been hitting. Brandon Marsh hit 5 yesterday because Castellanos is hitting 6. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what that lineup looks like once Boehm gets back, but their third base production without Alec Boehm has been pretty bad in the last week or two.
Yeah, we've been talking about while you were away, Mike, about what are they going to do when they bring Boehm back, because Weston Wilson is scorching hot this month. Otto Kemp, he's cooled off a bit. You could argue that Kemp's the better fielder than Weston Wilson. So what do you do there? Do you keep the guy as the hot bat? Do you send down the guy who's cooled off? What do you do there?
Well, this is why you can't make rash decisions right off the bat. Otto Kemp was a guy who seemed like he was clutch, had some big hits at times, and you're like, this guy can actually play. You got to give it time. You got to let these things play out a little bit, and then you realize, this guy's a 4A player. He's not consistent enough to play, and teams figure you out pretty quickly. That's what happens in Major League Baseball.
And that's why they're starting Sosa so much more, because you could argue they could put Kemp in the lineup more, but they're saying, listen, we at least know what Sosa gives us. Kemp, we're still trying to figure it out.
Well, and not to mention Sosa's a much better defensive player than Kemp, too. That adds to the mix as well. And then when you got Bader here, there's really not a lot of opportunity to play Kemp in the outfield.
Right.
So you've got Bader, who would be the right-handed guy that would play the outfield. Now, you can make an argument to say Bader could play center, Kemp could play left.
Correct.
Castellanos, if you wanted an all right-handed outfield, you could go that direction. I don't know that they've really done that since I've been
what they've
gone.
done instead is they've gone Weston Wilson and left.
It tells you they like Wilson as a left fielder better than they like Kemp.
Right, they've been putting Kemp at third base.
609
almost exclusively.
403-0973. All right, it's time for this week's edition of the Friday Five on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN.
Yeah, Mike, football is here, so let's get some football, okay?
These are my 5 favorite games in Week 13 and 14. Now, I was away last week, so I didn't give you my Friday 5 for Week 13, which is Thanksgiving.
And
That's a good week.
And I was not going to pretend to be you while you were away, so I let the audience wait till you came back.
Good. Week 13, this is a good week. I say it's a bad schedule a lot of times. This is 5 good games. You ready?
Let's do it.
Number 5, Denver and Washington. You got a playoff team in Denver, a playoff team in Washington, 2 teams that, think they're right in the mix to win Super Bowls now.
Also, 2 guys in their second year as quarterbacks. It'll be interesting to see where Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels are at this point in the season.
Yeah, this is Week 13, by the way. It's the Thanksgiving Day week, and that is when the Eagles are on Black Friday. On Black Friday, the Sixers schedule came out yesterday.
Yeah.
Here's a quirk. The Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers all play on Black Friday this year.
For the first time.
Has to be.
Ever.
Well, the Eagles have never played on Black Friday.
Yeah.
And then the Flyers generally play on Black Friday.
The Flyers generally have Black Friday, but usually the Sixers don't also play the same day.
Now, the Flyers Black Friday game is usually at home. It's on the road this year.
Right. The Sixers are at home for that game.
By the way, the Denver-Washington game is Sunday Night Football.
That is right. NBC.
All right. Buffalo-Pittsburgh.
Very juicy. Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Sean McDermott, Mike Tomlin. I mean, you could put Sean McDermott and Mike Tomlin in the coaches you don't want to get into a back alley with bowl.
What do you think the line on that game is?
Probably 3.
Buffalo, 4.5.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a little more than I thought.
The next 3 games are all on Thanksgiving. The night game is Cincy-Baltimore.
Black and blue division.
Baltimore's favored by 5.5.
Although we'll find out by then if the Bengals defense is good enough or not, because
Well, by week 13, this is why we're doing this. By week 13, these games could change.
that's true too. But I mean, like the Bengals defense, they still haven't gotten Trey Hendrickson in camp, Mike.
Number 2, Kansas City, Dallas. Kansas City's favored by 5.5 at Dallas
Take
in
that
that game, by
spread
the way.
now. Kansas City is going to BTA them in the kingdom come.
And number 1, Packers-Lions is the early game on Thanksgiving morning.
That's going to be a fun game. I mean, think about it. You got two teams. I think you can make the argument, Mike, that the Lions and the Packers are going to be in that hunt for the division to the very end.
I would think so. I mean,
Well, the Packers got to overcome some weird injuries right now.
yeah, they got the Love injury that's going on right now, but I think they said he's okay. But, by the way, Detroit's favored by 2.5 right now in that game.
Interesting.
So that's your Thursday Thanksgiving slate. Green Bay, Detroit, Kansas City, Dallas, Cincinnati, Baltimore. Black Friday, you got Chicago, Philadelphia. Is there any other game on that slate that I left out that intrigues you?
I would say the only other game on that specific slate that intrigues me at this point in time, because I saw you bypassed it, but I am curious about it, and that is Bucks-Cardinals. Are we at a point in the season, we don't know if Stafford's going to be healthy this year. That back injury is really becoming a problem. What if the Cardinals have a good year? How many times do we say worst to first, right? Are the Cardinals, is that a schedule soft enough that by the time we get to this point in the season, they are contending for that division versus a Bucks team that we know should be the favorite?
Well, the other
in their
that
division?
that got a slim consideration. Minnesota, Seattle got a little consideration. Seattle for the same reason that you're talking about Arizona.
Right.
If the Rams, something happens there, and keep in mind the 49ers, who I think play Cleveland that week. Yes, they play Cleveland.
Yes. That's why I didn't mention them, because they play Cleveland.
But Minnesota, Seattle, you're going to get Darnold against Minnesota.
Right.
So you get that little angle in there as well. So that week 13 is a good schedule of games. So many weeks I say, it's a tough schedule. This is a good schedule.
For some people, that's also the first week of the fantasy football playoffs for some people.
I don't do playoffs, so I wouldn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm
you're weird.
anti-fantasy football league
You're
playoffs.
anti-fun, Mike.
Nope. I just don't like playoffs. You know why? Because I'm not anti-fun. I'm more fun. The playoffs means you get knocked out, which means your fantasy season can be over in week 14. See?
It's one theory.
You said I was anti-fun. I'm trying to expand the fun. More weeks of fantasy football. I don't want my fantasy football season to end in week 14.
What is that commercial? More ways to win?
I don't know. Week 14. Number 5, Houston and Kansas City.
That should be a fun game.
Houston just doesn't excite me for whatever reason.
I think it's because you saw them fall on their face last year because of all the injuries they had. If they didn't have so many injuries, I think you feel a little differently about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year, you're right, definitely put a damper on being excited about them as a Super Bowl team.
I mean, they got to a point where they needed Tank Dell to be the number one receiver at one point last year.
Number 4, Buffalo, Cincinnati.
Shootout. Allen, Burrow, all the points. What's the over? Take it.
The over is, it's pretty crazy that they're already out, these numbers. 49.5.
Yeah, it's
Buffalo's favored by 5.5 in that game.
That's like a 35-30 kind of game.
By the way, the Chiefs are favored by 6.5 against Houston. This is week 14, by the way.
That game's in Kansas City, so that's why.
Pitt, Ravens.
Black and blue division.
Baltimore's 8.5-point favorite in that game.
That's way too much.
Take Pittsburgh now.
I would take them right now. Do it now.
Jim Nantz was saying last week that CBS is everything's banking on Rodgers because the back end of their schedule is brutal. But it's like all big-time matchups with Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. Whereas, like, if they get lucky and they're good, their ratings are going to be out through the window.
Well, the worst case scenario,
Through the roof.
If Pittsburgh falls apart by the end of the year, they can just call Dana White to come in and be a part of the broadcast.
Dana White, is this something I missed?
Oh, you must. Oh, wow, you really missed something. So the UFC is going to CBS and Paramount Plus.
Oh, yeah, I did see
starting
that.
in
Yeah, I saw that.
$7.7 billion deal.
I saw that, yeah. The reference didn't click that into me, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Dana White. Maybe if you said Joe Rogan.
I was thinking more Dana White because
Dana White generally doesn't a part of the broadcast.
Well, you could do something wacky just for TV ratings.
Washington, Minnesota is my number 2.
J.J. McCarthy, Jaden Daniels. I see what you're doing there.
Minnesota is a tough one to kind of. By the way, Washington's a 1.5 favorite on the road in that game.
I would think Washington.
Minnesota's tough because of the quarterback situation. You just have no idea what McCarthy's going to do.
Yeah, and there's mixed reports coming out of camp about how he is doing.
And number 1, Dallas, Detroit. That is the Thursday night game. Now remember, these two teams play on Thanksgiving and then come back and play on the next Thursday. So they have 2 straight Thursday games. That will be a Thursday night game. You'll be able to hear the game on 97.3 ESPN. And obviously, by that point, we're going to know, is Dallas in this thing? Are they for real? Detroit, there are some questions about the injuries. Plus, they've lost all the coaches. We'll know a lot about them by week 14.
I was going to say, so no love for Packers-Bears?
Well, of all the teams on this list, Dallas, Lions, Washington, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Ravens, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Texans, Kansas City. Wouldn't the Bears be the worst team of all those teams?
I don't know, man, because, if J.J. McCarthy doesn't work out, that could fall apart real quick for them. Detroit, they already have injuries coming into this season. Are they going to survive that point in the season?
Well, really, listen, there's been a lot of weeks where there's been a lot of bad schedules, and I put the Bears in there for that reason.
True.
But I don't know that they're going to be better than any of those teams I just threw out there.
See, I think you're overlooking the fact that those other teams might have some issues. Right
well,
now.
I don't. Everybody could have injuries. Anybody could have issues.
But I mean, right now they have issues.
Well, yes. But as I said, I think the Bears could be interesting with the quarterback who I'm not a big fan of, but I get that he's talented. I'm intrigued by the quarterback with the coach.
According to
and I have not heard good things about the quarterback with the coach yet.
No, but we've heard a lot of good reports about that defense.
But their defense was good last year, and it should be good again.
It'd be better this year.
So they are my Friday 5 for week 13 and 14. But again, I don't think the Bears will be better than Dallas, Detroit, Washington, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Houston, or Kansas City. So it's hard for me to put them. They would be the weakest team of the 5 matchups.
They are the weakest link.
Yes. Goodbye. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. When we come back, it is the unsportsmanlike moment of the day, and our man Chris Canty was at it again. Wait till you hear what he said this time. It's next on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
It just depends on what we think the shelf life for a championship in Philadelphia is, and I don't know how long that is. Now, Nick Sirianni got a pay bump. He got a pay raise, contract extension. He earned that. I just don't think it's a fait accompli that he's going to have a lifetime contract being the Eagles head coach as long as Howie Roseman is the general manager.
So if I said to you 3 years from now, who's the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, you're going to say, I don't know?
Based on the track record, don't we have to?
That is the unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Chris Canty taking more shots at Nick Sirianni. Have we not learned by now that these shots, at the end of the day, Canty, are going to make you look foolish? The unsportsmanlike moment of the day, brought to you by Broadleaf's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing service, and installation for generations. Now, the question that Evan Cohen brings up, 3 years from now, who's the coach? And he says, haven't we already learned? Look, Nick Sirianni was fired after his first year. The second year, when he got to a Super Bowl, nobody ever saw him getting to a Super Bowl. Yes, they lost the game, but at that point, he was on the hot seat. Then they go 10-1, and then they completely fall apart. He was fired again. When he was on everybody's hot seat, including Chris Canty's, he won the Super Bowl. Now, I think what Canty's trying to display here is that Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl, and then he was out a couple of years later. The difference is, as he just said, with Howie Roseman, Doug Peterson did not want to comply to Howie Roseman and the way the team was being run after a couple of down seasons. They said, Doug, your coaching staff is not developing the players that we are drafting. We think we're getting you better talent. You're not getting enough out of this team. He disagreed. They're not saying that to Nick Sirianni because Nick Sirianni and his staff are developing the talent here. Look, Chris Canty might not like the antics of Nick Sirianni. You might not be able to quantify what he does on game day, what he brings to the table offensively, defensively, or anywhere in between. But what you can't deny is this. The Eagles won the Super Bowl, and Nick Sirianni was the head coach because he has developed and kept this locker room and the culture. He is lockstep with Howie Roseman. And that is why he will be here 3 years from now. Because, number one, Roseman keeps giving him talent, and he keeps developing the talent. Look at the defense. Look at the team's youth. All of these guys are guys that were drafted, developed, all under Nick Sirianni and his staff. Now, you might say, this is Vic Fangio. This is so-and-so. You know, Nick Sirianni's gone through how many different offensive coordinators? It takes a pretty big guy to say to himself, hey, we're bringing in 4 different coordinators. No, I'm just going to step in and call the plays. He knows this is what I think is undervalued by people. He knows when to step back and say, you know what? This isn't for me. I want to be a CEO coach. You know why? Because it works for us here. I'll let this guy run the defense. I'll let that guy run the offense. Why can't we give him points for that? The NFL has changed. It has changed from the days of this guy having the iron fist and calling plays and doing everything on game day. The NFL that we watch today is being run by guys like Nick Sirianni who say, hey, I got Vic Fangio. I don't need to walk into the defensive coordinator's meeting and tell him how to run his defense because I trust him. That's what being a good head coach is. I don't need to walk into my offensive coordinator. Now, he probably has a lot more conversations in the offensive playroom than he does the defensive side, but he has not overstepped his boundaries since he did overstep his boundaries. One of the things that Doug Peterson wanted to do was keep coaches who were not getting the most out of their players. And I think that's what's being overlooked here. And that is our unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Don't forget, Unsportsmanlike, weekday morning 6 to 10 right here on 97.3 ESPN with Evan, Canty, and Michelle, and the unsportsmanlike moment each and every weekday at 3:45 here on the Sports Bash. The Phillies lineup, it just dropped against Mackenzie Gore, a lefty. And the lineup's brought to you by Instant Services, South Jersey's premier HVAC, plumbing, and electrical service provider. Go to instantservices.com to learn about their preventative maintenance memberships and how they can keep your systems running year-round. Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Realmuto, Castellanos, Bader, Sosa, Kemp, Wilson. Zach Wheeler gets the ball. So the righties are in the lineup tonight. Castellanos in right, Bader in center, Wilson in left. Kemp, by the way, is over at third. And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you today, of course, by our friends over at Ocean Casino Resort, the Gallery Bar Booking Games. We are back on Monday. I'll be back at the Gallery Bar Booking Games, and you can come up and check us out. The Gallery Bar Booking Games, the Fanatics Sportsbook. Go to the Gallery, go to Ocean, go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Whew, I am back. Adam Caplan is back on a happy hour Friday. And, of course, the Eagles take on the Browns tomorrow right here on 97.3 ESPN. A little look at the Eagles and where they stand as they get ready for preseason game number 2. Adam Caplan, what's going on, pal? How are you?
Good, Mike. So, by the way, when did you get back into town from your little...
I got back last night. I got to my house at 1:03 a.m.
Oh, man. What's the time? What was the time difference where you were?
6 hours. So right now for me is about 10 p.m.
Oh, man. So if you adjusted it all, you're like kind of screwed up by the time.
I did not sleep a wink yesterday. I literally woke up in Prague, flew from Prague to Lisbon. We had a layover there for an hour and a half, flew from Lisbon back. So a 9-hour flying day. I did not sleep on the plane at all. Drove 2 hours home from Newark to my house, about an hour and a half, hour 45. I got to bed at like 1:30 in the morning, and I woke up today at 6:30. So I'm working on about 5 hours sleep in the last 48 hours. It's been
maybe that's one the Phillies got yesterday, but anyway, I'm sure
I heard about all the travel problems the Phillies have had, but I wanted to make sure I was here today. I wanted to talk to you, Adam. I miss talking to you, pal.
Man. Yeah, Josh did a great job filling in. Love doing it with Josh, but yeah, we have the rare 1:00 Eastern game on Saturday, which We're having a Patreon chat, our Tier 3 members. It's fun. We did one last week for 25 minutes, and it was crazy. It was so many people showed up. Like, you know what? We're going to do this again. So now we'll see how many people are around. Probably about 2:45 Eastern tomorrow.
Right, yeah. Obviously you're right. The weekend, 1:00 Saturday afternoon Eagle preseason game. But let's find out some of the things we're expecting here and what we have to learn in preseason game number 2, which, I don't know, is preseason game number 2 – it's not like old preseason game number 3, right? We're not going to see starters like you used to the one before the last preseason game?
No, but it's interesting. Last year, technically, the Eagles only played one starter on either side of the football, and that was Mekhi Becton. Now, but I would put an asterisk on it because if you recall, Nolan Smith was a rotational player and didn't start early in the season. Nolan Smith started. Bryce Huff started. Now, again, you have to have context. Mike, Zach Bond had not won a starting inside backer job, so he did start week 2 last year at New England. So that's when guys will start where you go, well, is he a starter, not a starter? This year, and this is typical around the National Football League, if you have a joint practice, or 2 in this case, it's extremely rare that a starter would play. They take the joint practices as real work because, Mike, it's very intense. I know they're not getting tackled, but it's very intense work, particularly the Wednesday practice, which was an hour and 45. Yesterday's was at about an hour and 5.
All right, well, let's look at some expectations, Adam, and guys that we're going to be looking at. Mostly backups there, but there are some backups that are in interesting spots here, and one of them is that number 3 quarterback position because it assumes, I don't know, are we not even going to see Tanner McKee tomorrow?
Yeah, Mike, I've been thinking about this. McKee was, I don't know if you were still here last week for their first preseason game.
Missed it.
Tanner McKee was unbelievable. It's incredible. What do you need to know? Like that, the reason why coaches have told me over the years that we play players who are key backups or low end, whatever the case may be, is because they want to learn something. Do we need to learn anything, Mike, about Tanner McKee anymore? No, he's great. He's maybe the best backup.
No, you can, and if you're one of these teams that like the Eagles do, they like to get value in a trade. You might not think his value might be any higher than right now.
Exactly. In fact, look, they're not trading now, but when we get to March of 26, and it'll be McKee's last year of his rookie deal. Boy, times fly here. That's when you want to bank that tape. This preseason game, the first game against it today, was ridiculous. Last year's tape was good. Last year's preseason was good, and honestly, Mike, he really put himself on the map that first preseason game of his career against Baltimore 2 years ago, where he had a very average to below average training camp, but man, those games put him on the roster. So that's what these are for. Now DTR, Donovan Thompson-Robinson, a former Brown, and Kyle McCord, They're both going to play extensively. DTR is a little bit ahead of Kyle McCord. Had a good. He did well in OTAs, but once things got up here, it has not been as good for him.
All right, so that's the battle for the third quarterback job. That'll be something to watch tomorrow. Also, at wide receiver, the depth there. I mean, obviously, A.J. Brown has been out of practice with his hamstring. I guess it's not getting serious yet, but if there were to be serious, you got to have some more depth at wide receiver after the first two, and then, obviously, Jahan Dotson, what's left?
Yeah, Jahan Dotson is their three. That's already decided. The number 4 and 5 spots are between Darius Cooper, Terrace Marshall, and Smith and Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson the last 2 weeks has really taken his game to another level where he struggled the first training camp. He's doing really well. We expect him to be on the team. Darius Cooper, if you listen to today's show, Andrew DeCecco and I did today's show. It was great, one of our favorite shows we've done. I gave you the 411 on Darius Cooper. We actually had very good intel on Darius Cooper from multiple sources. Great stuff on him. I'm putting him on the roster. I declared him on the roster, as I did 2 years ago with Reed Blankenship in the first week of August. I'm like, this guy's making it. I'm putting Darius Cooper on the roster. Terrace Marshall, Mike, now he's back to be A.J. Brown's backup, but Johnny Wilson's coming in there as well, and then Anaya Smith is a slot receiver. I would say this, Mike, about these backup receivers. It's been a little bit better than I anticipated in training camp. I was not expecting these guys to show up one way or the other. Terrace Marshall, like the darling of OTAs, and Cooper's been the biggest surprise in training camp of either side of the football. And Johnny Wilson, again, it's special teams, it's blocking the run game, and finally, Mike, applying his size to the football field.
All right, Adam Caplan's with us for Football at 4. There's a look at the receivers. Hey, they brought in all these tight ends in the possibility that obviously Dallas Goedert was not back. He is now back. So what about these guys now?
Yeah, Mike, that's exactly why they did it. They were anticipating trading Goddard. They didn't. They have 7 total tight ends on the roster. There's only one under contract for next year. That's Cameron Latu, who's almost certain not to make the team. But Calcaterra is the 2. Now, the question is, Jeff and I have been debating this all week. Do they keep 3? Well, here's what happens. If they only keep 2, you're going to see 2 in the practice squad. And Kylan Granson, Mike, he just offers something different. He's not an inline tight end. Harrison Bryant could do the inline stuff. E.J. Jenkins could play inline tight end. He also plays on special teams. Granson's a move tight end. He's what we call an F tight end. He doesn't really play in line, so he offers something different. So this is a big game for them. This is a big game specifically for Bryant, Granson, and Jenkins. For someone to push, they're not going to keep 4 tight ends. At the most, they'll keep 3.
All right, Adam Caplan, let's look at the offensive line because obviously you did have a right guard position at the start. That looks like it's out of the mix now. It looks like that has been won. But this Landon Dickerson injury has added some intrigue if in the event that he missed a game, 2, maybe more, although he was handing beers out at practice, so it seems like he might be okay. What does the offensive line look like for this week?
Yeah, it was just good. He had his surgery Wednesday. Anything showing up has no bearing on anything. It's kind of funny he's hanging a beer. Now, look, Brett Toth is the backup. He if the season started today, he would be in there. Brett Toth, and Jeff pointed this out to me, I cannot believe he's been on and off Eagles roster for 7 years, Mike. It's just 7. 2019. So it's really not years, but seasons.
Seasons, right, yeah.
Right, Kenyon Green, we don't know when he'll be ready with a shoulder injury. They're not very deep now at guard, so this is a concern. The question was, now, first of all, we got to think that Brett Toth should play tomorrow. He needs work. I mentioned Becton, who was a starter last year. Now, the reason why not to play him is because if he's got to play week 1 and Toth gets hurt tomorrow, you got a major problem. Because then you're down to Darian Kennard, who's not a natural left side player. He just got cross-trained for the first time at left guard. Kenyon Green out, so they're running out of options here, Mike. We thought the depth at guard was pretty good, and Drew Kennel's only a center, so it's not. And Trevor Keegan clearly not ready. He's a third-string left guard and a third-string center right now.
All right, let's look at the defense, where there was a ton of stories before camp. How many of those stories have cleared up? Let's start at defensive tackle, where they lost Milton Williams. Looks like Ojomo has kind of settled everybody's mind there. What about everybody else?
Yeah, like right now, you want to see about Ty Robinson. He's had an up-and-down training camp. It's a technique, and he's got to learn the techniques here. Very explosive. Byron Young just came back from his groin injury. With the Booker trade, Mike, And Gabe Hall, thankfully, he got hurt last Sunday night at the joint practice. It was a shoulder injury. He's fine. I mean, he's not doing everything, but I'm penciling him on the roster for the fall. I haven't put him in pen yet, like I've done with Darius Coop, but he's had a very good training camp. So, yeah, it's big for those guys. Sykes, so they sign off the street. Jacob Rogers, they just signed this week, and Joe Evans, who are long shots to make it. Boy, their depth at D tackle, Mike, is not very good. That Booker trade, had they had Booker, I'd feel much better about it, but they got to learn a lot more about Byron Young and Ty Robinson.
Yeah, Thomas Booker was traded. He was in the Ja'Cory and Bennett deal last week with the Raiders, so he is out, and some young guys in there. You got older guys on the edge, Josh Uche, Aziz Ojolari, and then a young guy in Antoine Powell-Ryland. But, edge was a spot with Jalix Hunt that everyone was excited about. How do we feel entering preseason game number 2?
Mike, they have a lot of players. Depth, as we said for 8 years, is not about how many players you have. It's about the quality of the player. And Nolan Smith coming back from his surgery, he looks fine. He looks healthy. Jen Hunt is not a proven pass rusher. We're not really sure how good of a pass rusher he is. We like the development as a base defender in the run game. He's getting better as a pass rusher. He's not proven yet. We're not totally sure if he'll be a 3-down player yet. I wouldn't run with that yet. We need to see more. They have 3 weeks to learn this. Josh Uche is clearly their number 3 edge rusher. It wasn't like that to start camp. The first week, we always say, read very little into the first week. Aziz Ojolari was the 3rd edge rusher they only had 3 practices the first week. And then it changed the second week. He's the 4th guy. You mentioned Powell-Ryland is a very quiet training camp. Patrick Johnson, by the way, is over Powell-Ryland right now. Not that Powell-Ryland won't make the team. I'm just saying in the rotation. And Obo Okonkwo, who came over from Cleveland, it's just a funny week, Mike. So many ex-Eagles from the front office and players, roster, are now with Cleveland and vice versa. But Obo Okonkwo is there, who's on the 3rd team. So this is big for those guys, Mike. We know they're going to keep 4. And Jahad Campbell, by the way, seeing a little bit of him as an edge rusher, not a lot. And he's healthy, so look, it's going to be interesting. There are a lot of roles up for grabs as edge rushers right now.
No doubt, that's something to keep an eye on for tomorrow's game against Cleveland. And then you got the linebacking spot. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. heard a lot of good things there. Campbell, what's the? You think we see Campbell at all tomorrow?
Well, he's over the surgery, Mike. He looks good. It's to the point now, like, there's really, to me, no reason why they wouldn't play him because he's healthy. It's a situation where you go, you know what? They got to learn a little bit more about him. He's still learning the defense. I think we kind of know that. So to me, at this point, Mike, wouldn't you not play him? And Smile Mondin, I was able to see him yesterday. He is a tall guy. He's just not thick. Now, last week, Mike, Smile Mondin and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. were the starters. So, we should note that. But Campbell, Mike, is a guy who's so intriguing. He flashes in training camp. He's got rare size for an inside backer. You typically don't see guys built like that. And I'm looking forward to this. And by the way, Campbell played last week, 15 snaps on defense, and 3 on special teams.
All right, we'll close out with the secondary. You got a lot of corner news here.
Oh, boy.
And then, of course, the safety spot.
Mike, this corner thing is a quagmire. I honestly, it's even been worse than I anticipated. We generally have a pretty good beat of where things are going. And not that I thought Ringo or Jackson would really seize the job, and Ja'Cory and Bennett's been up and down so far. It's been tough for him because this defense is different than the one that he played in with the Raiders. And Mac McWilliams, and this is not a shot at Mac McWilliams, that's a compliment, but when Mac McWilliams is getting first-team reps on the outside, not a lot, that tells you that it's completely opposite Quinyon Mitchell. That's not good, Mike. They already made one trade. I'm not ruling out another one at the end of August here.
Wow.
If this thing doesn't look good. You know why, Mike? Because Harry Roseman, this is what someone who used to work for him told me, the guy's fearless. He doesn't care. If it doesn't look right, he's got such a good feel for it. And and he pointed this out after the draft in one of the post-draft press conferences, we've got 13 picks next year. You're not going to use all 13. That'll never happen. So I'm not ruling anything out here. This is we got to give Jacory and Bennett more time though. That's
yeah, it's funny. Bennett was traded right before I left there, and I talked to people that they liked him a lot. He just didn't fit in with Pete Carroll, not the bigger physical guy. They thought a lot of people thought he was their best corner. No, I mean, not saying a lot with the Raiders, but still. So a little intrigued to see if he kind of grows into this system as he learns it more. He'll be a guy we'll definitely keep an eye on. That whole corner, Ringo, Jackson, Bennett, Mac McWilliams. Keep an eye on them tomorrow right here on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles-Browns preseason game number 2 on your home for Eagles football, 97.3 ESPN. All right, Adam Caplan, we'll talk to you next week, pal.
Sounds good, thanks.
All right, there is this week's Football at 4. And, of course, Football at 4 is brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort, the Gallery Bar, booking games, the place to be inside Ocean Casino this football season. Go to the Gallery, go to Ocean, go for the win. For more information, visit oceanac.com. Couple things I'm looking at tomorrow, obviously, as we just talked about the secondary there. But he talked about Uche Ojulari, and, is it a lock that Jalix Hunt is going to be a premier pass rusher? People were acting like, there were some crazy comparisons out there. But we talked to McMullen earlier, and he talked about, the fact that they cross-training him to play the other side at this point. So what does that say about what they're seeing from him? Is Ojulari and Uche, are both those guys in position to make this team? I think that's something there. 609-403-0973. Let's get some text messages from earlier in the show. We were very busy early in the show. Phil's on the beach in Brigantine. Let's go Birds. Regarding the Phillies, I'm pessimistic about them playing consistently well offensively in the playoffs. Let's start there. There's no reason why you should be optimistic about that, Phil. They have done nothing to remedy that problem. Listen, baseball by nature is a game of inconsistencies. The Phillies are the team that we see day in and day out. So we're having the same conversation. If Mike Gill is doing sports talk radio in L.A., Milwaukee, Chicago, New York, wherever right now there's a first-place team, they are doing everything in their power to try to find some positive things amidst teams that are so inconsistent. Toronto, 20 games over 500, 6-4 in their last 10. Detroit, 71-52. They are 19 games over 500, 6-4 in their last 10. Houston, 68-53, 6-4 in their last 10. You get all these teams, they're all in first place, and yet they can't get to the point where they're pulling away. Now, Detroit's 6.5 up on the Guardians after the Guardians kind of closed the gap a little bit last week. Houston got bad news today. Josh Hader is going to be out for the next 3 weeks. Seattle's been piping hot. They've won 8 out of 10. Milwaukee's won 12 in a row in the National League. They are now 8 games up on the Cubs. So we were talking about this earlier. The NL wild card right now, think about this. The Cubs are the top team in the wild card. The Dodgers are second, and then the Mets. The Mets are only a half game up on the Reds. But right now, if the playoffs were to start today, it would be Cubs and Dodgers playing each other in the first round. And then the worst division team would be playing the Mets. And right now, that would be based on a tiebreaker between Philadelphia and San Diego. Who has the head-to-head in that series? I think they've played 3 times. I think they play one more set of games. Those San Diego games could turn out to be huge because you could end up playing the Mets again, but this time in a wild card round. They did not play the second half of the season yet, and they do not play. So they have played all their games. The Phillies and Padres have played all their games. I thought for some reason they played one more. You got it?
So they are tied 3-3 on the season.
Oh, jeez. So what is the next tiebreaker?
I would look that up now. I can't say I'm like an expert in baseball tiebreakers. So give me a sec.
So that's something to keep an eye on because right now the Phillies and Padres are tied with the same record. They are also tied in the season series 3 games apiece. But the team that is the worst division winner would play right now would be the Mets or the Reds. Mets are half game up. Now, I know the Mets have had all sorts of problems, but baseball is a game where things can change at the drop of a hat pretty quickly. So we can continue to read that text message. It's like, Mike, I don't think they can put together another necessary stretch over multiple series. That's the one thing I've said. The Phillies are a team, and baseball in general, it's hard to be consistent over 3 series. That's why the wild card's tough. Being the wild card means you got to be hot during the wild card. Then you got to be hot during the divisional round. Then you got to be hot during the championship series. Then you got to be hot during the world. It's just hard to be hot, to have the right players be hot for 4 straight series. He goes on to say we're likely to see something like the last 3 games scoring only 3 runs. They're just not good enough unless the starting pitch is absolutely lights out. Yeah, I mean, look, we know if the Phillies are going to win the World Series, it's because their pitching was the reason. I don't think we're going to look back and say, man, that Phillies offense carried them through these playoffs. Terry and Galloway, Mike, at this point, I'd be surprised if we ever see Andrew Painter pitch for the Phillies. I won't agree with that, Terry. He might not pitch this year with the Phillies, but he'll be up here at some point, probably next year. Shaner, angry in Summers Point, almost at a platoon in right field. Mike, I've been there for months. Casty's a bust. Yeah, I've been saying this for a while. I don't know about the platoon thing. They just haven't had an option to really platoon with him out there. Now they do. I mean, if Kepler's on the roster, you might as well utilize him in that. I would platoon Kepler and Castellanos right now at this point, as Kepler's still on the roster. He's a better right fielder than he is a left fielder. And then Bader would play center, and Marsh would play left with either Kemp or Wilson. If you're not going to call Crawford up, and it doesn't appear that they were, so I was probably, I think we were all looking at it and saying, well, he'll be up after the trade deadline. Was wrong about that. Was wrong about maybe, now, I guess after today, if they call him, they can call him up tomorrow, Justin Crawford, but I have no indication that that's going to happen either. So it looks like they are just not ready to call Justin Crawford up and put him into this situation. So if that's the case, I play Bader in center every day and just then go with Marsh and, Wilson or Kemp in left field and Kepler and Castellanos in right field. You just can't play Castellanos every single day now. You just can't do it. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. So much more to get into. 5 o'clock tonight, it's a Mike and Bob Friday baseball chat. Bob Wankel joins me. We'll talk some Phillies with him. What else we got here on the text board? This one is let's see. This one's a football one. Call Russell Douglas. He's a free agent. I think what they have is suitable to Russell. And I'm a West Virginia guy. I think Russell Douglas is kind of, listen, he's played well everywhere he's gone. It seems like he always has like a big interception or something. They'll figure it out. They'll figure that spot out. 609-403-0973. If you look at these teams over the last couple of weeks of the season, the last 10 days, we're talking about teams that have played pretty good baseball, 6-4, and yet their fan bases are upset, right? It's pretty funny how that works. But that's what happens when you lose 3 in a row. The Phillies have won 6 out of 10, but they've lost 3 straight. And that was kind of my point. These teams are actually playing pretty well. They've won 6 out of their last 10, and yet their fan bases are all looking at these teams and saying, we have flaws. We've had flaws. We have problems. We don't do this well. We don't do that well. That's just the way fan bases are kind of trained. They always look at the negative. But I think with the Philly situation, their negative is the same negative that it's been with the same group of guys. That's why I think it's definitely more revealing this time around.
All right, Mike, strap in for a second. These tiebreakers are really dumb. So after the head-to-head tiebreaker, the next tiebreaker, and these are tiebreakers according to MLB.com for all scenarios and situations, intra-division record, your head-to-head record involving clubs within your own within the
Is
other
that to win the
divisions.
division, though?
This is for everybody. This is why I'm think this is so dumb. So it's head-to-head record, then intra-division record. Then whoever has the superior intra-division record would win the tiebreaker. Then it's inter-division record. Then it's last half of intra-league games. Then it's last half of inter-league games. This thing is just so dumb.
All right, well, good luck with that, everybody. More Sports Bash coming up. The Nuggets are on the way. Nick Earnshaw joins me for another edition of Nick's Nuggets next on the Sports Bash. All right, time for Nick's Nuggets now. They're brought to you by the Hub Gear that works as hard as you do. Nick Earnshaw is back for another edition of the Nuggets. He is the host of the Shift podcast. And weekends, he produces the Locker Room right here on 97.3 ESPN. Phillies, Eagles, some Sixers stuff as well. There's a whole bunch going on. Let's see what Earnshaw brings to the table today for today's edition of Nick's Nuggets today on the Sports Bass live on 97.3 ESPN. What's going on, Nick?
Oh, South Jersey's favorite world traveler is back. Mike, it's good to see you back in the saddle today. I hope you had a great vacation. It looked like a lot of fun. I have no idea where you were half the time. You were in Portugal one day, Prague the next. I couldn't keep up. It looked like a fantastic time.
Always a good time to travel a little bit, go see the world, go check out all the – I'll tell you what. The food is just unbelievable in some of these places. It's just unbelievable, some of these places that you go. It was a great time. We had a Prague. I recommend if you said I got to pick one place to go next year, Prague was maybe my most favorite place that I've been to.
You know, when we were at Yuri's last Wednesday for the Phillies watch party, we had Durso there, PG. We had a text board question. People were texting in where they want to go based upon you going and traveling the world. So, I mean, there's a lot of places people want to go. I mean, I might have to take your recommendation at some point if I can get over to Prague. It sounds fun.
Yeah, I think if you just said, hey, I want to go check out something in Europe. I've never been over there. I mean, London I loved. It's just so massively big. Prague is a little smaller, so you can kind of like take it all in. And it just – the place looks like a movie set. It looks like it's just not real.
It just feels fake. Like it doesn't feel like a real place.
It's so majestic. It's so majestic that it looks like it's nobody could have built these buildings. There's just no way.
Yeah, and then you come back, and I'll tell you what's not majestic, and what is really real is Nick Castellanos. So that's what we're going to start with Nugget number one, Mr. Mike Gill. Your guy. I know you were excited when they signed him, but you've been very critical of him, rightfully so. Since the All-Star break, Nick Castellanos has the lowest F-WAR in the league at minus 0.8. He's slashing 178 batting average, 204 on base. He's got 3 home runs, 25 strikeouts in 23 second-half games. And we talked about it yesterday. In Castellanos' last 7 games, he was batting .069. Now it's down to .034 in his last 7 games. It's not pretty out there, to say the least, right now for Nick Castellanos, Mike Gill. It makes you wonder, how much more is he going to be starting every day in right field? I mean, seriously, at this point, and I've been very critical of Max Kepler. What do you do? What does Rob Thompson do? Does he bench him again for a game? Does he get his head straight? I don't know what the answer is, but I'll tell you this, and I said it to Josh yesterday. If you can get one good playoff series out of Nick Castellanos, because that's where the bar is. Can he just give you one good stretch in the postseason like he did in 2023 against the Atlanta Braves? I will call that a win for the year for Castellanos, because he's not cutting it. It's just not cutting it at this point. If he can give you one good week in the postseason, I'll say that's a win for anybody trying to discredit Nick Castellanos, because that's what you got to get out of him.
Problem is, though, you're looking small time. You need more than just a week, as you saw the last couple of years. He won them one series, but he was a huge reason why they lost the next series. You can't say, give me a week. That's all I'm asking for. You can't have that. That's their problem.
That's all I can expect out of the guy. If he can give me a week, that's a low bar to meet there, Mike. I don't have a high bar for him. That's
of course it's a low bar, but the bar is low, but that's a losing bar. That's why he's an unacceptable player, because your best case scenario is give me one good week, then you're going to lose. If he gives you one good week, all he can do is help you win one series. So the point is this, he's not good enough. You've got to find somebody that, listen, I'm not saying they have a guy on this roster that is going to do anything that you're like, well, how come you're not playing this guy? So the best you could do is try to maximize what you have. Is, hey, Castellanos, maybe right now you need to face just left-handed pitching. All right, you're just going to face left-handed pitching, and that's hopefully you can get yourself going. The problem is his splits are not good enough even to be a platoon player. He's average against everybody. Now, Max Kepler has given them a little bit the last week here.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to maximize the two players, you just say to those two, hey, right now, you guys are going to platoon in right field. That's just the way it is because we've got to try to get the best out of both of you. And by right now, the best out of both of you is you guys platooning in right field. Bader's going to play center field because he's the best defensive player that we have. And then in left field, we're going to play Marsh, and then you pick a left fielder. Is it Wilson or Kemp? I don't know why they wouldn't use Justin Crawford at this point and just see if he could play, go with the best defensive options you have, but it doesn't appear that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing up a guy who's never been in the big leagues before. That's a lot to ask out of a young player. Just bring him up in August, say, hey, we need you for a pennant race. You got to step it up. That's a lot to ask if you do bring up Justin Crawford, which it doesn't seem like is going to be the case. But the thing with Castellanos is you're just stuck. I mean, what are you going to – you can put Kepler out there. He'll probably go through a rough stretch again as well. So it's like you are in a lose-lose scenario. If you can get one good series out of him, just one, you got to have the other guys step up too. They'll win with the other guys. The Schwarbers of the world, Harper, Turners, they got to come up with big hits too to win a series. I just don't trust Castellanos. If you can get him scorching just one time through the postseason, I'll forgive him for batting .034 over a week stretch in August. I will. I'll forgive him for that for a little bit.
There's a lot of guys who bat low for a week straight. We could pick out every player and find they had a rough week. The problem with Castellanos is you know what he is. You know, listen, and now he's starting to get to the phase of his career where he's only going to get worse. He's not going to get better. He's going to get worse.
I don't know what you do with him either in the offseason. What do you do with him in the offseason? Because he's no value. He has no value in the offseason. What can you trade him for? A reliever or a prospect or two? A lower-level prospect? You're not going to get anything for him.
This is why the Phillies are in a tough spot. All right, they got Nick Castellanos making $20 million a year. This is where when people talk about the manager, it's not the manager who's making this decision. No. This is a GM thing saying, look, we paid this guy $20 million. Now you have to play him. When you get paid $20 million, the manager just can't come in and say, guess what? You're not playing today. The GM says, no, I signed that guy for $20 million. He's your right fielder. And then the other guy makes $10 million. So you're not going to just say, hey, we're going to call up Justin Crawford. You're not getting rid of Bader. You just traded for him. You're not getting rid of Marsh. He's been the most productive guy you have. You're not getting rid of Castellanos. He makes $20 million. The one guy you could say, okay, we can get rid of is Kepler. Then you'd have to admit you've made a mistake on Kepler. This is where your hands are tied by the decisions you made in the offseason, where you would like to bring Justin Crawford up and give him a shot, but he is blocked by the fact he got $30 million wrapped up into two outfielders who are your two worst offensive producers.
I couldn't have said it better. This stems back from the offseason. They didn't address the outfield properly. And it goes to the deadline, too. Was Harrison Bader enough at the deadline? Could they have gone out and get a Suarez who could play third base, another right-handed bat? I understand Castellanos is supposed to be a right-handed bat, but he's not cutting it at all. So should you have gone out and gotten a stronger offensive bat, a righty, and giving up some of your top prospects? I mean, maybe that should have been the case. I know you want to have the bridge into the young core of Crawford, Miller, Painter, but man, if you're trying to win a World Series right now, maybe you should have given up a couple more of those prospects to get a bigger bat. I mean, it's in hindsight right now. They're going through a rough stretch. It is a road trip, but Castellanos and this outfield is just not good enough. Bader also should be playing every single day. No question.
Well, you say that now until he plays every single day and then struggles, and then you say, what are you playing him every single day for? That's the problem.
Then you just can't win. Then you just can't win, Mike. You just can't win in this outfield. You can't.
The Phillies outfield is filled with platoon-level players. That's the problem.
That is exactly the issue. All right, let's move along. Nugget number 2. Staying with the Phillies, you mentioned the GM, and more so the president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski. He was on with Buster Olney, and Ranger Suarez has been struggling. Zach Wheeler's been struggling a little bit, but it still comes back to who's going to be the guy coming out of the pen in the postseason. And he made a little bit of an admission on this podcast with Buster Olney. Take a listen to Dave Dombrowski.
The fortunate part for us is we're deep with our starting pitchers. So we're not going to be able to throw all those pitchers in the postseason in the starting basis. So one or two of them will end up back in the bullpen, and we have 3 left-handed starting pitchers. So for us, it made it where we weren't looking for a left-handed reliever necessarily in the postseason for that trading deadline because we felt we had the 2 and we could move somebody else from our starting rotation.
So he kind of made an admission there with the left-handed pitcher comment, and it should be Ranger Suarez. If you look at Ranger, he's been struggling as of late. He's having the second half down part of the year like he has in years past. And I think he's the guy because, first of all, he's struggling to get through the lineup 2 or 3 times. But when he faces batters for the first time, batting average against opponents are batting a .195 with a .255 on base percentage and a .255 slug. When he faces batters a second time, it jumps up to a .270 batting average, .329 OBP, and a .419 slug. It almost doubles, essentially, in some of those numbers there. Ranger is the guy to come out of the bullpen. The numbers say it. Dombrowski has hinted at it. He is the guy because he's struggling to get through the second and third time through the lineup. If he's going up against a batter who is its first at bat facing, he will be just okay. And the velo's been down around 89 too. I think Ranger's the guy, and I think they're preparing for Ranger to be the guy. Luzardo could be it as well. But Ranger, I think, is the number one option out of the pen.
Well, he said 2. He said 1 or 2. It's going to be 2. There's 2 guys going to go to the bullpen because right now your top 3 starters are going to be Wheeler, Sanchez, and I would imagine Aaron Nola will be that third guy there. So then who's the 4th guy? You need a 4th pitcher. Not until you get to the championship round is when you really need that 4th guy. So you could put 2 guys in the bullpen really for the division series, and then you wouldn't need that guy until game 4 or so of the championship series. So your option is really using 2 pitchers out of the bullpen, and I would think Luzardo would be the first one that would be the bullpen guy, and I think Ranger would be the second option. Now, I will say this. On August 15th, on September 15th, we could be having a totally different conversation.
You could be. You could. However, I think it's Ranger. I think Ranger is the guy to do it, especially in the DS. If they win the division, they go to the NLDS, the numbers say the first time through the lineup, he's okay. He will pitch better. Okay? That's why I'm going Ranger. And his experience coming out of the pen. I understand. Boris, Ranger probably won't love coming out of the pen heading into an impending free agency, but I think that's the best option because Ranger's struggling as a starter right now. I understand he's struggled in the past and then pitched well in the postseason, but I can't trust that right now. I got to go with Ranger as the first guy out of the pen. I think he's better against teams and players at the dish their first time around. You can get 1 inning out of him, a clean inning, and boom, move on to the next.
I think it needs to materialize. There's a lot more because you could say the same thing about Luzardo. I mean, he has been better earlier in games as the game goes on. Like the other night, he was pitching great. He went to the 7th inning. And, early in the year, people would say, why'd you pull him? Now, this part of the year, why'd you leave him in? You can't win, right? I mean, you leave a guy in too long, why'd you leave him in? You pull him too early, why'd you pull him? He was cruising along in this game. You need more data. We all love more data. We always want more numbers and more data. Well, on August 15th, we just don't have a big enough sample size yet for these guys.
Well, I'll tell you, the OPS is 677, and batting average against opponents for Luzardo is 249. So it's a little bit higher first time around for Luzardo. Teams are hitting against him earlier on in games than Ranger. So first time around, I trust Ranger a little bit more here on August 15th as we stand now.
The problem with Luzardo has been he doesn't pitch deep enough into games. So now you're going into your bullpen earlier into a playoff game, which is, you don't really want to have to do. You don't want to have to go to your bullpen in the 5th inning of a game if you don't have to.
This is going to be fun because we've been talking about this a while. How's it going to shake out? We still got about a month and a half to go.
You know what, Nick? That's why they play 162 games in baseball because it's the perfect number. You find out everything over once, the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs, the roller coaster rides. At the end of the day, you get the sample size of 162 and say, this is what this guy did over his 162, and that's what I make my decision on. You don't make your decision based on what you've seen up to August 15th because these last 2 months are the grinds. Because as Mike McGarry said earlier today, he said some of these pitchers look like they are out of gas. Who has that next level in them? Who has that next push to get? And this is why some of these teams, they fall out of the races. They're in the races. And then some of their guys have never been in a race or through this many innings. And all of a sudden, the body starts breaking down on them a little bit. And you're like, oh, my God, I still have a month and a half left to go with this. That's where the true teams start to separate themselves. By the way, Jesus Luzardo in his career has pitched 16 games in the bullpen.
All right. We'll see how it shakes out.
He, too, has bullpen experience.
We'll see how it shakes out. He mentions the lefties. I don't know. I'd prefer Ranger just because he's done it here before as well. All right.
Well,
moving
as
along
we
before I
talked
get out of here.
about many times, by the way, Bob Wankel's going to join me at 5 o'clock, and he has said many times, what left-hander do you want to come in a late-game situation against a tough lefty? A one-on-one against like a Juan Soto, Freddie Freeman. Luzardo has that lefty, nasty stuff to get the tough guy out.
He has, but he's also struggled in the postseason. Just a couple years ago against the Phillies, he struggled too. Have to remember that. Ranger has had a lot of success in the postseason, has pitched very well. So that's why I'd probably go Ranger. It could be both of them. Who knows? Who knows who they go with? We'll see when Aaron Nola gets back too. I don't think Aaron Nola has the stuff to get out of the bullpen. All right, let's move along. Final nugget before I get out of here. Sixers note, I want to play this audio from Nick Nurse regarding Joel Embiid and him returning to training camp. Take a listen to Nick Nurse.
Things look good. Whether he's ready for training camp or not, I think there's maybe a lot more decisions than that to make before we get there. But our main thing is that he's healthy to play and play to his near his capabilities, because he's awesome. No doubt about that. He is when he's on the floor. Any night he's out there, we got a chance to win, which is amazing. And we just want to make sure and get him healthy and let him play for a longer period of time.
I don't know how training camp's going to shake out. It's not sounded too great. Hopefully, let's cross our fingers. Hopefully, they take their time with him. Just let him take his time coming back. That's all I got to say on that final nugget, Mike.
Yeah, I think, that was not a overwhelming vote of confidence that he'll be there day one, ready to go. But guess what? At this point, I'm not even really expecting or caring about that. I think Joel, and I said, I'm going to give you an over-under right now, okay?
All right.
62. You going over or under?
Under. I'm going Embiid under. I think he plays around like 52, 53.
All right, if he plays 52, 53, they'll be in the playoffs, and that's fine.
It's cool with me. I hope it happens. We'll see. It's not a vote of confidence right there.
That's why what Nurse said to me, and there was a report last week that he looks good, that he's been doing some stuff. I don't really put a lot of stock into those reports. I'll believe it when I see it. And quite frankly, I think Joel will be fine. I think he'll play about 60, 62 games, somewhere in that range. And this whole conversation about him will just be,
I hope you're right. I hope. That's all I got to say. Nugget 3. I'm glad you're back,
often, Earnshaw. I'm wrong often.
I hope you're right. I just hope you're right on this one. Can you be right on this one? Just be right on this one.
Me too. I hope so, too. All right, there's today's Nuggets. They're brought to you by the Hub Gear that works as hard as you do. Nick Earnshaw is back on Monday. See ya.
Peace.
All right, Monday, we're live at Ocean Casino Resort. Those guys kicked off the Ocean broadcast last week. Pete G and Nick were live on location. I will be there with Pete G on Monday. We're out on location 3 times next week. Monday at Ocean, Wednesday at Yuri's, and Friday we'll be live at Ventnor Social. At 5 o'clock, driving you home, Sports Bash Happy Hour Friday, everybody. In my head right now, it is 11 o'clock at night. So if we sound like we've maybe had a couple too many on this Happy Hour Friday, that could be the reason, but we're back. We're back. Hey, don't forget, next week we're out Monday at Ocean's Fanatic Sportsbook. Wednesday, we'll be live for the watch party at Yuri's in Wildwood. Friday, we're live at Ventnor Social. You could stop out and see the show 3 times next week as we get ready for football season. But the Phillies taking center stage where nobody's ever happy. Bob Wankel's back. It's a Mike and Bob Friday baseball chat to kick off this Friday edition of the Sports Bash 5 o'clock hour. Bob, welcome back, buddy. How are you?
I'm all right, Mike. I'm glad to have you back. Good to talk to you. It's been interesting here in Phillies land lately. You know, you start to feel pretty good about the overall direction of things, and then you fast forward 3 days, and it's the same old story. So we're right back to where we were when you left.
Well, I will say this. When I left, the Phillies were a game and a half up. They're now 5 up, and yet I feel like people have a lesser opinion of the team 5 games up than they did when I left it a game and a half.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? So on August 2nd, the Phillies had lost to the Tigers that day. That was the Skubal Wheeler game, and they were a half game out of first place. You fast forward 13 days, and they have picked up 5.5 games in the division and lead it by 5. You could not ask for a better turn in the division over a 2-week run than this. But the problem is that it's hard to enjoy this surge, up the standings because it coincides with prolonged offensive slumps, pitching concerns, starting pitching velocity concerns. Just because the Mets are in a free fall, like you'd love to be able to point and laugh about what's going on up in Queens right now, but you can't fully do it because the Phillies have a handful of issues.
They do. Let's start with a handful of issues. Boy, where do we begin? I guess the offense, because the offense is the same as it's been the last couple of years. When you look at this offense, the last 3 games, they built this lead. They had a little win streak going. The Mets had a losing streak. You're up 6 games. Then the next thing you know, you've lost 3 games in a row. The Mets continue to lose, so you really haven't lost a lot of ground in the standings. But I think these last 3 games and some of the games you won were indicative of the offensive issues this team has that people, Bob, seemingly just can't get over.
And rightfully so. I mean, when you have the way that they've gone out in recent postseasons, and they just continue to do this again and again and again. Like, yes, they're 17 games over 500. Yes, they're positioned well in the division. But what was encouraging last weekend was that the middle of the order went a little bit quiet. You say, well, how's that encouraging? It was that for the first time all season, it felt like that they were getting big, important contributions from the bottom of the lineup. You're like, oh, here comes Max Kepler with a key hit, and Mundo Sosa with a couple big hits, Bryson Stott with big hits. And you're like, they won some games in Texas that we've seen this team lose over and over and over again this season. So you thought that would sort of buoy the offense and let the Schwarbers and the Harpers and the Turners get rolling again, going into Cincinnati, going into Washington, and that just hasn't been the case. The middle and top of that order have stayed relatively cold, and, this is what you get where you're scoring 3 runs over the last 3 games, basically.
Let me get your thought on the outfield situation then. It's August 15th. Is this the outfield? Do they have to seriously consider doing something, platooning right field, calling somebody up, doing something different, or are you just hoping? Last week I'm in Prague enjoying myself, and it looked like, hey, Rob Thompson's hitting all the right buttons. He's playing the guys. I hate these platoons, but they seem to be working. August 15th, you look at this outfield. Is it any different on September 15th?
Probably not. Like, is Crawford a part of the equation at some point in September as a part-time piece? Do they let him get a look? Maybe. But as time goes on here, it just feels like it's less and less likely that he is a meaningful part of the mix in 25.
Why do you think that is? Let's stop there. Why do you think that is? What has he not done? What has happened where they just said, look, he is just – this outfield is an embarrassingly bad group, and yet you have a guy ripping it up down there. So what are they not sold on yet?
Well, I think the question is, like, is he an improvement and is he an upgrade over what they have? And I guess in theory he ought to be. He's hitting 330. We all know the numbers, 848 OPS. He's hitting lefties and righties. You say, what else does this guy have to do? But he's a little bit unpolished defensively. So I don't know that he just steps in and gives you some huge defensive boost. He does not hit for power. Are they concerned about the batted ball profile and a lot of ground balls, a lot of infield hits? And does that translate at the major league level? And really look at it this way. Like, Harrison Bader's a good defensive center fielder. Is he going to be an upgrade in center field over Harrison Bader? Probably not. Brandon Marsh is swinging the bat pretty well right now. Is he going to be an offensive upgrade over what Brandon Marsh gives you in left field? Probably not. And then you go to right field. And this is the problem in this moment as we talk. Nick Castellanos, since the All-Star break, is hitting 178 with a 204 on-base percentage in 23 games. Since the All-Star break, he's walked 3 times and struck out 25 in 90 at-bats. I mean, that's bad. I mean, he has a 292 on-base percentage this year, which is bad enough, but it's compounded by the fact that he's a 408 slugging percentage and he's hitting cleanup for you most nights. It's just not good enough. So
I'll give you the question that I get. Number one, can they platoon him? Why can't they do something with Castellanos? Why does he continue to play every day?
All right. So, why does he play every day? Because he's a veteran guy. He's making $20 million a year. He has some degree of a pedigree. He's been a good hitter in this league for nearly a decade. He probably represents the most upside, so to speak. That's why you play him. But you are getting to a point now where there had been whispers, would they consider a platoon with Nick Castellanos? And he's been terrible since that was really first put out there. And at some point, you have to get it done. And by the way, yes, he's a streaky hitter, but you go back and look at his last 2 seasons. Go back and look at it month by month. He's never had this absolute heater where he's posted a 980 OPS and hitting 10 home runs. That's not what he's been. His highest OPS in any individual month over the last 2 seasons is 858. So it's not like this crazy hot streak's coming. But what are you doing as a supplement? Is it going to be Max Kepler? This is a guy that everyone wanted DFA'd for 2 months. Now he's had 7 good games, and everybody's like, hey, you got to get Max Kepler out there with Nick Castellanos in a platoon. And, maybe that would be better at this point. But Castellanos has been so bad that maybe you think about it, but it's not like they have some awesome solution here to do this.
You'd have $30 million in right field. That's a pretty good player.
Yeah, a lot of money for 2 very below average right fielders.
Yeah, listen, do you see a scenario, though, where they literally, because it's not my, if I'm in charge and you could do whatever you want to do, I'd say, Nick Castellanos, look, we can't play you every day right now. We're going to play Kepler against righties. You're going to play against lefties. But that's not the world. That's not the real baseball world. That's not how this works.
You know that it extends beyond what you just see on paper. So I rattle off his last 23 games and, the splits and all this stuff, right? The reality of it is that he's one of the senior members of that clubhouse. They are getting to a point now where they're going down the stretch run trying to win a championship, and they probably figure, how do we keep maximum buy-in from this player who we are going to need something from down the stretch? And if you platoon this guy and you do it in earnest and you really commit to a part-time role for Nick Castellanos, that is going to have significant clubhouse implications. Now, maybe it's a shakeup. Maybe it wakes guys up. Maybe it has a positive impact. But the reality of it is I don't think Nick Castellanos would really take to a platoon situation very well. And I wonder if that would have significant negative ramifications in that clubhouse.
Especially when you're the right-handed player in the platoon, you play a lot less than the other guy does. So he would literally be down the plane about 2 to 3 times a week.
That's right. And he probably deserves to play 2 to 3 times per week at this point. And, one thing I'll say is that Max Kepler had his back against the wall. If you want to spin this in a pro Kepler kind of way, back's against the wall. Everyone wants blood. Get rid of this guy. He stinks. You got to move on. And he's responded in a very small sample. He's had good at bats. He's hit the ball harder. He's been consistently, incrementally better. The numbers are still ugly, but he's at least giving you, for the most part, professional grade at bats. Whereas Castellanos has done the complete opposite.
Bob Wankel, the Fighting Words podcast, you can get on all podcasting platforms. Check that out, of course. And, it's a Mike and Bob Friday baseball chat. It's got to the point where people want to Kepler gone are now saying, hey, give that guy a chance to play some right field. That's how bad it's gotten for Castellanos. Now, some people are just like, hey, listen, just get rid of Castellanos to avoid your situation. Hey, you're platooning, and then you have the clubhouse ramifications. In no world are you cutting a guy making $20 million. I can't come up with very many scenarios where that's a real legitimate possibility.
You can't. And look, I mean, for as bad as he's been, and I just spoke to the relative lack of upside, like this idea that he's so streaky and wait until he gets crazy hot. Like, he's not going to get crazy hot. He hasn't done that since 2023, really. But at the same time, what is your other option from the right side in right field? It's not Otto Kemp. Like, we've seen that. Like, Otto Kemp's in the lineup tonight. I don't know how much longer he's going to be here. I think we're a couple days away from Alec Boehm returning, and I expect that it would be Kemp who gets sent down, and maybe he comes back in September, but he's not a viable replacement. You need something out of Nick Castellanos, and I think what the Phillies are trying to do is exude as much patience as possible to hold out the hope that they can get him back to a place where he's contributing. I mean, it's not like it's been a disaster all season. The guy had a 742 OPS a week ago. It's just been off the rails bad this last week.
All right, when I say to you, Bob Wankley, you're a little bit of an analytic guy. You know the numbers. If I say, explain to the people, he's a negative 1.1 WAR, I said, you almost have to try to be that bad. What does that number say to people who are like, I don't know what you're telling me. Why is that so awful?
Yeah, well, all right. I mean, first of all, just to put into context how bad he's been, Fangraphs has their own wins above replacement formula. And since the All-Star break, he is the least valuable player positionally of all qualified players in the sport. So that's how bad he's been. Now, how do you get there? You don't walk, you don't hit for average, you don't hit for power, and you play horrendous defense. And I know that there's like this section of Phillies fans that go, he's really not that bad defensively. Ball goes out the right field, and if he's there, he makes the catch. Okay. Like, that doesn't make you a good defensive right fielder. His range is so limited that when you grade him out defensively, he is the worst defensive right fielder in baseball. So you add up a guy that can't walk, isn't hitting for average, can't play defense, doesn't hit for power. Well, what are we doing?
It's breaking it down as it doesn't sound like he's and it goes back to that he's an unplayable guy for the most part, but the $20 million makes you have to play him. I mean, is that what it comes down to?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, it's part of it. And look, I think that they will probably explore an alternative path forward this offseason. I think in the heart of hearts, if you ask that front office and its key decision makers, would you like to move off of Nick Castellanos in 2026? I think they would say yes. But that won't be that simple because, as you noted, they owe him $20 million. Now, you're going to have to swallow probably, I would guess, probably somewhere between $8 to $10 million of that in a potential trade. And I don't think you would get much back in terms of value in what you would get back player wise.
We're talking with Bob Wankel here. It's a Mike and Bob Friday baseball chat. Phil's taking on the what are they playing? Mackenzie Gore is Nationals. They're playing the Nationals tonight. So, sorry, I've been away for a little while. I'm trying to remember who some of these guys are. Yeah. Here's the one, interesting part. You got Castellanos, probably him that's for the long haul. What does the other two spots look like? Have you got because this whole thing before I left was these guys are going to platoon for the next 6 days. We're going to kind of go with that. Those 6 games kind of end it. What's the read on the outfield now?
I think that you are, for the time being, going to continue to see against right-handers Marsh. I think you're going to continue to see Kepler. And I think you're going to continue to see Castellanos, though I do wonder. Washington does throw a right-hander tomorrow. If Castellanos goes out tonight against Gore and is horrendous again and gives you these non-competitive at-bats, do they use tomorrow's game as a breather and say, all right, we're not going to platoon full time with you, but let's pump the brakes and give you a blow here, and we'll see you again on Sunday when we're facing a lefty again. But I think it's Marsh, Kepler, Castellanos against righties, and I think you'll continue to see the Bader split when they face lefties. I think we're headed to a place, though, honestly, where Bader gets the bulk of center field in September. I think that's what's coming here, and I think that Marsh gets all the left field playing time against righties, and I assume that maybe I think it's probably still Castellanos and right if I had to guess.
All right, and then obviously there's a couple other guys. You got Harper, Trey Turner. Real Muto's been a little bit better here. There's a lot of guys who make a lot of money here, so I'm on the plane last night, and on my fly home, I'm watching the Malice at the Palace. And it's, the story of like how they went all in for the championship after they had lost to the Pistons in the 6th game the year before. They went out and got Ron Artest and Steven Jackson and Jermaine O'Neal, and they felt like that was the team to make the push. Do the Phillies look at this team now and say, this is the team to make the push? We have to make a drastic decision. The problem being that their high-priced other players, not named Castellanos, are also not performing at the level you had hoped.
Yeah, and I think that the guy that we often don't talk about in these situations is Bryce Harper. He sort of resurrected his season. He got super hot. And there was this feeling like, okay, there's the MVP version of Bryce Harper. And then you look up now in his last 15 games, he's hitting .211. And I think that the thing that's really strange about Bryce Harper's recent run here is that if nothing else, even when he's not swinging the bat well or he's not overly productive from a power standpoint, you're going to typically get quality at bats. He's going to grind through at bats. He's going to find a way on base. In his last 7 games, he hasn't drawn a walk and he struck out 11 times. His last 15 games, he's walked only 3 times. So I just don't know where the on-base skill has gone here the last couple of weeks. He looks visibly frustrated. Someone said to me today, it looks like he's sleepwalking again. He looks disinterested. I don't see that. I don't see disinterested so much as I see frustration. I just think that I think he expected to turn a corner and go on a 6-week heater, and that hasn't happened. And I think you feel that. I think the rest of the clubhouse, the rest of the lineup feels it when Bryce Harper's not going right.
Yeah, because every once in a while, he hits that home run, and you're like, he's turned the corner, he's coming back. You start to feel it. I mean, even like this week's been dreadful. I mean, you got even Schwarber struck out 12 times this week. I mean, when he goes bad, he goes really bad too.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Schwarber has not had a good week after the late home run Monday, which was obviously huge. But Schwarber's just not somebody that we're going to come on and talk about after 4 or 5 bad games because he's going to hit 55 home runs and, knock in 130. So
right.
I'm a little bit more I'm slower to kind of go at Kyle Schwarber and say, hey, this is a concern. But he, too, has had poor at-bats recently. And we're at a point where Alec Boehm coming back will help this team. I've obviously been very critical of Alec Boehm. I think that his game has a number of flaws. But given what they are dealing with offensively right now, his return will be welcome to this lineup.
Well, the third base spot has been a mess without him. I mean, You got Kemp and Sosa playing there. Like tonight, you got Kemp playing there because Sosa's over at second because it seems that that's a full-blown platoon as well.
It is. I mean, there's no question at this point they have entered into the full platoon at second base, and that's been okay. Sosa's done a nice job. Stott has been a little bit better recently here, and so you ride that as long as you can. But Otto Kemp at third base, I mean, look, I like Otto Kemp, and I think that he's a major league part in time, but he's not a third baseman, and the defense shows up there, and it's just they are short right now.
All right, let's get into a couple of other things. The pitching situation, a 6-man rotation. How long does that play?
Well, I think when you look at the diminished velocity from Ranger Suarez and you look at some of the issues that Zach Wheeler's had lately, this is a big start for him this weekend. See where he's at in terms of the velocity, see where he's at in terms of his command. He pulled a lot of pitches in that last start against the Rangers. These guys are wearing out. You're cognizant of the workload for Luzardo, even though I think he's been fairly sharp the last 3 or 4 times through the rotation, but you still want to be mindful of that. I have no problem going to a 6-man rotation here. And I think 95% of it is really just trying to be aware of the workload and keeping these guys fresh into an October situation. And I think like 5% of it is that, hey, Taijuan Walker's done a nice job. He's competed for this team. And if you would have told me on March 25th, March 30th, whatever it was, that we'd be having a conversation on August 15th where Taijuan Walker has a sub 3.4 ERA, I'd say there's no shot. There's no chance.
There's also no shot or no chance that he starts a playoff game.
There's 0 chance unless, 3 guys go down and you're really hurting.
Right.
But he's not I don't think he's a viable relief option. So this kind of lets you give these other guys a breather. It keeps him, you're sort of doing right by him. Not that that's the number one consideration in all of this, but I think you get more out of Taijuan Walker as a starter than you do as a part-time long man. And what's really interesting about that is what are the repercussions in terms of the roster construction, because Alvarado's coming back. Nola comes back Sunday. All right. Well, you're going to have Walker in the rotation still. So what are you doing in terms of your bullpen now? Like you're going to lose 2 guys when these guys come back. And so you have Ross, you have Lazar, and you have Romano. Like those are the 3 guys, and 2 of them aren't going to be here next week.
Yeah, Alvarado thing is weird because obviously he's going to come up. Robertson's up here now. Alvarado will be up here, and now you're pitching him in what situations? I mean, are you using him in high leverage situations, not high leverage situations?
I think they will absolutely. I know that people kind of feel like, hey, there's this idea that he's not going to be part of the thing in the playoffs, so why would you use him in meaningful situations in August and September? The Phillies are clinging to the final, first round bye in this playoff picture right now, and I think you have to exhaust everything that you have and take your best shot at getting that bye.
Yeah.
And if Jose Alvarado comes back and is sharp, and he's the guy that's going to get that high leverage out late in the game, you're going to use him.
I agree with you there. It just, it's a weird spot that they're in, that they're going to be booting a guy out of here that might have to come back and help. I doubt it, though, because Dombrowski did say on the Baseball Tonight podcast, it looks like 2 lefties are going to go to the bullpen. I would imagine it's Suarez and Luzardo. If there's only one of those guys, though, do you put Luzardo in the bullpen or do you put Sin? I know you said before about Suarez, Luzardo in that lefty situation against Soto. That keeps coming to your brain. But we know Suarez has done it a lot.
Yeah, they're going to have to decide, do they want the upside in Luzardo or do they want the slow heartbeat, experience, craftiness of Ranger Suarez? And I just think they're going to have to look at it by opponent. Hey, if we get into a situation where we need one of these guys in the 7th inning, who's going to have more success against an assigned pocket in terms of the opposition?
All right, a couple more here. Last night's game, we've talked about the offense, the pitching, the bullpen. What about the use of the bullpen last night? They didn't use it. They went to Luzardo in the 7th. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, so Luzardo was cruising through 6 innings. I thought his start last night was very encouraging. If you want to say, hey, after 6 innings that he's only at 83 pitches, we want to, force the issue here a little bit. I don't mind that. That's okay.
Right, because Bob, just to interject, if he's pitching as well as he did and it's June and they took him out at 83 pitches, people would be saying, why'd you take him out at 83 pitches?
Yeah, I have a couple things on that, though. I mean, they are in a hellacious stretch of games right now. They're playing a lot of games, no days off. And so if you don't have to get up relievers and you don't have to go to 3 or 4 relievers in a game, you try to avoid that if possible. But if you're looking at the game in isolation and a vacuum and say this was an important one after losing a series in Cincinnati, and you're jockeying for that playoff position and go get the game. Kirkering was going to enter that game at some point last night, whether it was in the 7th or in the 8th. And so if you're going to use him, I'd rather have had him up at the start of the 7th, working, ready to go in the event that Luzardo issues a 6-pitch leadoff walk. In that moment, you knew right away, this is it, get him out of there. And it turned into a disaster. So I think that's a situation where I don't mind him starting the inning. You have to have somebody ready to go hot when that walk happens. He's at 89 pitches. And who's Jesus Luzardo to be given that type of trust in that spot?
Yeah, you and I are on the same page. I don't mind him pitching into the 7th. It's the fact that he walked the leadoff man. That's when you're saying, all right. And they had nobody warming up at that time.
Yeah.
That's where you're saying you weren't prepared for him to maybe lose it at that moment. Yeah. That's saying you haven't learned from.
Yeah. And when it goes with him, it tends to go. So, I mean, it's
100%. And then you have to leave him out there because the pitcher's not warmed up and ready to come in the game.
Yeah, exactly right.
What do you think about a bunt in that situation?
In the 9th inning?
3-1 count with a bunt.
I, for the life of me, don't understand it. I don't think that the Luzardo
with the 8-hole hitter, by the way, bunting to get to the 9-hole hitter.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Phillies had, if you go by win probability, Baseball Savant, StatCast, they had a 27% win probability when Max Kepler singled to start the inning. When Edmundo Sosa successfully laid down that sac bunt, their win probability dropped from 27 to 22%. So analytically, it was a horrendous decision. It made no sense. He's ahead in the count. He's one of the guys that can probably actually pop a fastball into a gap or beat someone over their heads, and maybe you end up taking the lead. I'm not a big fan of bunting in a situation where you're trailing on the road. I hate that in general. Analytically, it just makes no sense. That sequence made me want to rip my hair out. I, for the life of me, cannot understand. And let me just say something. We all do this, revisionist history, armchair quarterback, hindsight's 2020, all that stuff. If Emilio Sosa grounded into a 6-4-3 double play last night, I promise you, I would not have said, why didn't they sack bunt? I mean, what, to get Bryson Stott up? Bryson Stott's a 240 hitter. What are we talking about here?
That's what I said, and it compounds by the fact, look, if you're bunting the 9-hole hitter to bring up the leadoff guy, maybe a different situation.
Maybe
you're
a different
bunting
situation.
the 8-hole hitter.
And maybe if the guy's on second base and there's nobody out and you're like, you know what, we're really scuffling. Maybe we could just put the ball in play with a runner on third, fewer than 2 outs, get this game tied up. I can even go for that. But from first to second, no way.
I did not understand that decision at all. I was, and correct me if I'm wrong, they were like, the count was like 3-1. Like, why out of nowhere are you saying, hey, you know what? Here's a great time to lay a bunt down, 3-1 in the count.
Yeah, no, what we don't know is, was that Sosa, hell bent on doing that, or was that was that a sign from the dugout that just stayed on, or but whatever the case may be. I mean, you can't look at that from a baseball perspective and tell me that's a good play.
No, I agree, and that's one of the things I would say. Yeah, I think you look at Thompson and say, if you call a bunt on that play, what are you doing? I mean, in that situation, you're saying that's an awful call in that situation. But that's a game last night where. That's the kind of game that you're looking at in the playoffs and saying, where's my offense? Where are we scoring? And then tonight you got a left-handed pitcher, Mackenzie Gore. So you got the right-handed lineup out there, which has been the weaker, side for you. We'll see. But you do have a 5-game lead. But as you said, right now they are tied with the Padres, and the two teams split the season series. So I don't even know. Josh tried to explain it to me earlier what the tiebreaker thing would be. But these games are starting to get where you got to start. You can't lose games against Washington.
It's not June anymore where you say, oh, well, that's baseball. You have a lead against a team that you're 21 games better than in the 7th inning, and you have all your relievers available. Like, you better find a way to navigate that and win the game.
All right. It's a Mike and Bob Friday baseball chat here on a Sports Bash Happy Hour Friday. Now, I had a lot of happy hour selections, but they were all not from this country. You ready to go on this weekend?
Yeah. Yeah, we're ready to go. As soon as I click the X on this computer screen, I'm out.
All right, man, get out of here.
All right, I'll see you.
There's Bob Wankel, everybody. It's a Mike and Bob Friday baseball chat. We do it every Friday here on the Sports Bash. We'll do it through October as long as the Phillies are playing. We have a Mike and Bob Friday baseball chat for you here on the Sports Bash, and hopefully we get more of Bob this year, which means the Phillies are going deeper into the playoffs. We could use that. We'll see how many people out there think that's possible. By the way, I wrote this quote down. This is a crazy quote when you think about it. Nick Castellanos is the least valuable player of all qualified players in the sport. Tough to defend that comment. More Sports Bash coming up. 97.3 ESPN. When we return, Sal Paolantonio explains whether or not the Eagles' offense should take a step back with Kevin Petula in charge. You'll hear that next on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 5:35. This hour is brought to you by White Horse RV Center, Williamstown and Galloway. Don't miss out on the red tag clearance event going on now at White Horse RV. Your RV adventure starts at White Horse RV, Williamstown, Galloway. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. So we were talking earlier, Josh, about the story where we go on this trip to a town in the Czech Republic, right?
Yeah.
So the bus, as we mentioned, I think there's about 20 people on the bus. And everybody gets on the bus, and there's a bunch of couples or people that were together. And then there was a group where there was one girl by herself, and then there was another guy who was like the fifth member of a group. So it was like a husband and a wife, and they were all older. I would say like 60 plus.
All right.
Okay? So this one guy's by himself. He's the fifth guy. And I sat next to him. My girlfriend sat next to this one woman who was by herself. There was one other. So there was a group of three. There was a guy, his wife, and his daughter. And then there was a woman. So the woman who was the tour guide, she characterized us by where we were from. Like, okay, we got Indian guy, we've got English woman, we've got Australians, we've got, Spanish people, we have New Jersey, because there was two of us from USA. Ironically, the other two people were from New Jersey, too. Actually, there were three. It was the husband and the wife. Well, so we're on the bus. Now, mind you, this whole thing had happened where me and my girlfriend sat next to two different people on the way there. Now, it's a 2.5-hour ride. You're stuck in this bus for 2.5 hours. There's no moving.
Right.
The guy that next to me, snoring, sleeping on me, he's kind of like, as he's snoring, his hand. Now, like the bus has like a little bar in front of you might put your hand up on. He's got his hand up on there. As he snores, the hand falls off, hits me in the leg. His elbow rips me in the rib. I'm like, come on, dude. Then he's in his sleep and he's snoring, and then he wakes. I'm like, oh, come on, man. So when we came back in the bus, me and my girlfriend said, we're not sitting next to these people again. We sat in the seats. So we asked the question earlier, am I in the wrong? Or are you supposed to go back to the same seat you rode in on the way to the place? That's number one. So when we took the two seats that two other people were sitting before, they took the seat that I was sitting in with the other guy. Right. They were his friends. They took his seat.
Gotcha.
So when he was coming in, he was looking for a place to sit. The only place was next to this one woman. Well, he didn't want to sit next to that woman. Well, there was another seat that was open. There was an Indian woman that was sitting there, but she wasn't in the bus yet. The man next to her, he was an Indian man, but he was an American man.
Okay.
So his wife was in the bus. Now, she was a blonde-hair woman. So they were doing a head count. They said, someone's missing. And the English lady had said, oh, the Indian woman's not here. Right? So then the lady who was the tour guide said to the guy, where's your wife, sir? He said, she's right here. No. The woman you were sitting next to. Remember, he wasn't sitting next to his wife. She was sitting next to their daughter. So he was sitting next to the Indian woman, and he, too, was Indian. So the woman thought that they were married. So the lady looked at us and said, you started this whole problem. I go back to, were we in the wrong?
Look, this sounds like a lot of people kind of just doing their own thing and without zero consideration for anybody else.
So are you saying that me and my girlfriend had zero consideration?
No. I'm not saying you. I'm saying you guys basically, after the initial trip, right? The initial 2.5 hours, you said, right? Drive 2. My position is, over 2.5 hours, it was made abundantly clear that this is a every man and woman for themselves situation. This is not a
Does it add to the fact, though, that everybody else sat in the same seats except for us, which then changed other people's seats.
No, because one, you already had an experience going to that put you in a position that you're like, why am I even here? I don't even want to be here. Like, you were put in the worst situation possible with some individual. I don't want to cast any aspersions.
I'm not saying that the guy, I mean, he wasn't purposely, like, doing anything wrong. He just fell asleep.
Yeah, but you can't. Okay.
Now, let me add this to the mix real quick.
Oh, yeah? You got more for me? Good grief.
Everybody on that bus fell asleep except for me and my girlfriend because we were the two people. Now, mind you, the bus ride is like 8 o'clock in the morning. So you had to get up early to try to get to the bus, blah, 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 blah. But everybody was out like a light on this bus ride except for us two because we were the two uncomfortable people that didn't really have a seat because these people were taking up half the seats.
Right. So, again, I go back to my original point.
So my point is, though, real quick.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he was the only guy that fell asleep.
I wasn't going to say that at all. My point is, for better or for worse, we all know the kind of people we are, okay? I know the kind of sleeper I am. You know the kind of sleeper you are, right? This guy should have had the awareness to say, I need to situate myself in a way that if I'm going to fall asleep, I'm not stumbling and flopping myself all over the guy sitting next to me, okay? Like, for example, I know very, very clearly that I'm an angled sleeper, we'll call it, okay? I sleep on angles. I can't sleep flat on my back or flat on my stomach. I'm an angle guy. But if I'm on a public transportation, a plane, a bus, or whatever, and I feel the need to sleep, I will purposely angle myself so that I am not then at some point flopping, flailing, leaning into somebody else or something else.
Yeah, these seats are really small. Like, they're not the same size as the bus seats that we generally have here. These are a little bit narrow.
But
so
again, you know that this guy you said was not a small individual. Okay?
He wasn't like a massive man.
No, but he's not small.
No, he was not small. He was not
so as an individual
obese
who
by
is
any
not,
stretch.
But you know your body. You know your physiology. You know you have to have the self-awareness. So
you're getting a little bit. I don't look at him and saying that he was unself-aware. Like, I just think he's a bigger guy. He fell asleep, and he's snoring, which was annoying, that I'm sitting next to a guy snoring away. And then
I don't understand why people are sleeping on the bus anyway. It's 8 o'clock in the morning.
You're on a bus ride. It's 2.5 hours. You just kind of close your eyes and, you wake up, you're there. I don't have any problem with that. Everybody was sleeping except for us two. Literally, so the woman is going around and she's telling, like, hey, over here on the left, this is...
everyone's asleep except for you and
I looked around. I said, this woman is talking. There's not one person awake except for us two idiots. That's because...
Now, see, that woman's committed to her cause. She's committed to...
She was really good. She was really good. And now, mind you, she had to speak 2 different languages.
This is like the you never saw this movie, obviously, guy that I know you, but there was this movie called Spider-Man Far From Home, and like every bus ride they took in the movie, the teacher is trying to show them like the sights of Europe, and no one's paying attention the entire movie. And at the end of the movie, he start talking about, and then the kids were like, "Wait, what did we miss?"
Well, everybody was sleeping, but she had to keep giving every story in 2 languages.
Oh, man.
Because you had this group of 5 people that only spoke Spanish. So she had to do the whole thing in English, and then she would say, now in Spanish, and start the whole story over again. So you're putting people to sleep. The Spanish people were out like a light because she kept speaking English first.
Naturally.
Now, you would say, this sounds like a terrible situation. Listen, I really enjoyed the town we went to. It was great. She did a great job as the
host guide.
Yeah, she was the tour guide.
Gotcha.
But the whole bus ride thing. So now she told us, you had like 2 hours to yourself. You did the tour, and then you had like 2 hours or so to go through the town by yourself.
All right.
And she said, everybody meet back here at 4:15, to get on the bus at 4:30.
All right.
Well, me and my girlfriend get back at like 4:05 because we wanted to make sure we got to that bus
Smart.
to get the seats.
See, again.
Now, you know who was the only person that was there before us?
Who?
The large English woman. You know why? Because she knows she had to get that seat because she knows the situation.
So again, it
She
goes
knows
back
that
to this is an every man and woman for herself situation.
She knows that she has to get that inside seat. Otherwise, it was going to be a tough ride for her. And she was a very nice lady, by the way, because Heidi sat next to her on the way to where we went.
But
Now
she
the
was sleeping.
She did sleep a little bit. Now, the guy next to me didn't speak any English, so I couldn't even talk to him to say whether he was a nice guy or not. My intuition would say he was very upset with me. And so was the rest of his family. They all seemed like they...
But see, this gets back to the comment made earlier to you, which is, but you will never see these people ever again.
And I said, so we sat down, and we're comfortable. And the two people next to us were from Australia. We had a great 2-hour conversation with them. The guy was a big IPA drinker. He kept asking me, where did I go around Prague? And he wanted to go to the places that I had been to because they were looking for more places. So we had a great conversation. So it all worked out. But we just kept laughing about how mad she was and how mad he was. But I did. So just to show you what kind of person that I am, I did feel some level of compassion that I felt like maybe we did this guy dirty. But that's why I was asking people, if you ride the bus on one of these tours and you sit in a seat on the way to the place that's like a 2.5-hour drive, are you compelled that you have to sit in the same seat on the way back?
To which I say the circumstances, again, my position has not changed. Now that you've given us a plethora of information,
I will say this.
off,
I will say this. For example, I hate to cut you off, but I just want to add some context. So in the back right seats, the most comfortable seats in the whole bus, because they had no seats in front of them, so you had the leg room too.
Okay.
There was a couple. They were from Italy. They were the Italians. They left their jackets in the seats. In other words, we want those seats when we get back.
Right. That was like reserving.
And the gentleman who sat next to me left his water bottle, and he had some sort of Nicorette gum that he left in the seat pocket in front because he figured that's my seat. When I get back, I'm just going to leave my stuff here.
Now, did you move the Nicorette pack when you got into the bus?
We didn't sit in those seats. We just left them there.
Oh, okay.
But his buddy did.
Oh, okay.
His buddy and his wife. See, we took the seats.
See, again, this only reaffirms my position, my feeling on this. This is not a circumstance of, did you do this guy dirty? No, this is a every man and woman for themselves. And whenever you get on the bus, you got. When you were the last two people on the bus going to, you got what you got. On the way back, you said, we're not going to be the last two people on the bus. And guess what?
That's true.
You got the better seat. And the person on the bus was this other guy, right?
That's right.
So it's his fault.
I feel better now. We'll get to the Sal Pal stuff on Monday.
Who's Sal Pal? Come on.
Sports Bash live at Ocean Monday, live at Yuri's in Wildwood on Wednesday, live at Ventnor Social on Friday. Stop out and see us. We'll have the Lombardi Trophy Wednesday and Friday. Get your picture taken. We're getting ready for football season. The football lineup on the Sports Bash will be revealed next week as well. More Sports Bash. We'll close it out next right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Sports Pass Live, 97.3 ESPN. No play of the day. Going to take a little time off for the rest of the summer and see if we'll bring the play of the day back for the football season. I need a little break. I was winning too much money for everybody. Need to recharge the battery and get ready for college football and all the stuff. You know, college football starts next week, Josh.
I am very excited, yeah. By the way, your final record as before your pause, Mike, 207, 147, and 1.
207, 147, and 1. It's a pretty good record. I think I made a lot of people a lot of money for a long time there. We'll do something again in the fall. Not a lot of sports going on right now other than just baseball.
Next weekend, like you said, though, Fresno
College
State.
football will be back.
You can hear on 97.3 ESPN.
Yeah, by the way, tomorrow, Hanging with Hennon comes on after the Eagles and Browns. So check that out. Eagles and Browns, the coverage starts at noon, kickoff at 1. Hanging with Henning follows around 5 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody.